There were at least 9 very serious teams with him. 8 of those teams now know we are not getting Kyle Schwarber, but they have a lot of money to burn in their pocket, and we are now going to see the hard pivot. Pete Alonso, Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman. I expect a flood of trades still. There's a lot out there in the industry. This was the one that had to break the dam because there were so many teams in love with the idea of Kyle Schwarber hitter and Kyle Schwarber clubhouse.
That was Joel Sherman on MLB Network just a little bit ago, alongside Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. The first domino has fallen, Alex, in the position player market at this year's winter meetings. It is Kyle Schwarber who's heading back, as we all kind of expected, to the Philadelphia Phillies. It is a 5-year deal worth about $150 million. It's a lot of money. I think it's worth it for them. I don't think you could have let that guy walk through the door and go somewhere else, especially somewhere like, I don't know, New York, a direct competitor in your own division for a guy that last year, I mean, at least had an argument to be among the MVP candidates in the National League. So let's start out with the actual news on this. We'll get to the trickle-down effect, which is significant in the market and has implications for your Cardinals here in just a moment. But what do you think about the deal, Alex? Do you think it makes sense for the Phillies, 5 years, $150 million for an aging DH type in Kyle Schwarber?
Yeah, I think it does make sense. And frankly, it's probably good if you're Philadelphia to get it done because you need that bat to stay in the lineup. I mean, they're kind of in this changing of the guard, and you still have Bryce Harper, who's still an elite player. And, you know, I was curious what this roster was going to look like with a couple of pending free agents. And, man, if you walk away from Kyle Schwarber, where's the threat in that lineup beyond Bryce Harper? Trey Turners are aging. You're moving on from Castellanos. I don't know if JT Realmuto is going to be back. So, like, that team is kind of at a crossroads. And so you keep JT or you keep Kyle Schwarber. Now you got that 1-2 punch still. Now you've got that threat, even if there are other elements that may be gone. So I think it's smart that they ponied up and gave him the extra year and gave him the money so that he didn't walk out the door. I think it's a bummer if you're the Cincinnati Reds because that was a player that you really would have liked. But, yeah, if you're the Phillies, man, you're still trying to squeeze this lemon as much as possible for the next few seasons when Bryce Harper is still at this elite status. So you need to get another bat. So I think it's smart that they locked up Kyle Schwarber.
Odds are pretty high this is going to hurt at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 2 years from now, 3 years from now?
This is the typical Dave Dombrowski, right? You love it when it's at
Dave's going to be gone in a couple years.
About 3 years from now, Dave says, deuces, I'm out the door.
Good luck to the next guy.
Wish you guys nothing but the best. The next 5 years are going to be painful, but they're always painful. We're watching it right now with the Cardinals. Eventually, there is pain to pay for all of the attempts at trying to contend. But if you actually put your best foot forward the way that they are right now and not the way that the Cardinals did, you got a chance to go out there and get a World Series out of it. So I think they had to do this. I think it was absolutely the correct decision to bring him back. The guy had 56 homers and 132 ribbies last year.
Imagine explaining that to your fan base. Hey, we're not going to bring him back.
And finish second
in
in
Philly, in that market. You know, like to try to piece this thing together the way that they have in recent seasons. I know Phillies fans were furious at the way that it ended last year for good reason. It was a disappointing end of the year for them. But this is a team that's worth bringing back the nucleus of and then try to rearrange from there. Trade a guy like Alec Boehm. Go out there and try to make a move for Nick Castellanos. But honestly, do the Castellanos for Nolan Arenado swap. Improve yourself defensively and then go get some more dudes. There are ways that you can make this thing work, but Schwarber had to be back.
The more I'm thinking about it, I actually wish it didn't happen because the pure chaos that would have taken place if Philly let him walk and then he went to Pittsburgh. Oh, man, that would have been fun.
Their pivot very well may have been Wilson Contreras.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to the interesting side of things for the Cardinals. This has a pretty significant ripple effect through the free agent and trade market. This allows for the market that exists right now for sluggers to start moving. Pete Alonso now goes toward the top of that market. I don't know if it's exactly the same teams that are in play for this, but Kyle Tucker's market now becomes a little bit more clear. The trade market, Ketel Marte. We'll see who's in on C.J. Abrams, Brendan Donovan, Wilson Contreras. These all start to move a little bit more. It seemed like Schwarber was the player that had to go first before we could get any movement on the rest of these guys.
Yeah, now that he is gone, I think you're right. I think you're going to see teams start to pivot towards those other boppers for the middle of their lineup. And what makes it interesting is, like you mentioned Contreras and his name. I wonder where he falls on the corner infield market.
It's a really good question.
Because, like, when you look at Pete Alonso, do I want to pay Pete Alonso, who's, I think it's 2.5 years younger, if I remember correctly? Do I want to pay him, like, $25 million or for, like, 4 to 5 years potentially? Or do I just want to trade for Wilson Contreras? Probably don't have to give up much of a prospect, more of a lottery ticket. Unless the Cardinals want to eat a little bit more, then I'll give up something more meaningful. And I get him for 2 years at like $18 million, and he's just as good, if not better, defensively at first base. And I get a little bit of pop still to add to my lineup. So that'll be the interesting story to kind of follow along is, okay, where do teams go now? Are they willing to trade for Contreras before they start to explore the Alonso market? That is the biggest storyline now for the Cardinals at the winter meetings.
I think the part that's interesting between those two is the commitment that you're going to have to do with Pete Alonso versus the Wilson Contreras one, to where, like, you're signing to a pretty long deal, I would imagine, for Pete Alonso, to whereas Contreras, what, you got 2 years remaining on this?
Yeah, and the Cardinals might make it worth your while.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw with the move for Sonny Gray, maybe the Cardinals end up eating $15-20 million on that. And now you have Wilson Contreras at $10 to $15 million a year. That's a good deal for Wilson Contreras, man.
Plus, Contreras is just that all-around player, and he has that attitude that I would imagine a lot of locker rooms would want. So, I don't know. It seems like that would be... I mean, Pete Alonso obviously is MVP caliber player, and I don't know if Wilson Contreras is in that tier, but he's in the next one down. Mm-hmm. And if I'm only going to have to commit a couple of years to this with the pending MLB union situation next offseason, like, that would be the more ideal lane if I'm a team that's trying to contend.
Could also be about what you need. You know, different lineups and need different roster constructions.
3-hole hitter versus a 5-hole hitter.
Yeah.
You know, like, I know that doesn't sound like a big difference. That's a huge difference.
Alonso's a guy, if you're lacking for power in your lineup, he brings that. If you're lacking for contact and on-base percentage, that's more Wilson Contreras' game. So there are different teams that need different things to add to their lineup, and it would also be like, I think there are very few contenders for Pete Alonso's services. There aren't a whole lot of mid to small market teams that are going to be interested in a 5-year deal for a 31-year-old first baseman that hits for power. That's not the thing that you see the Kansas City Royals, Milwaukee Brewers, Cincinnati Reds typically going after. But you could see teams like that going after Wilson Contreras. He makes a lot of sense because it's just probably a prospect, maybe a lottery ticket, and then you're giving up $15 million a year over the course of a 2-year deal. Well, yeah, most teams in Major League Baseball can make something like that work. So I think the market's actually a little bigger for Contreras than it would be for Pete Alonso. And the same thing is true for a guy like Brendan Donovan compared to, for example, Bo Bichette or somebody like a Ketel Marte, where they're going to be very limited in teams that could go out there and actively acquire them. Brendan Donovan is appealing to every team in Major League Baseball. So we at least get to start the process of finding out where those guys can land. We also found out certainty today on the Dodgers.
Oh, what are they up to?
They added the best closer in baseball.
That's so LA.
Yeah, that checks out.
Edwin Diaz gets a 3-year deal. What's the money on this, T-Bone?
$69 million.
69? Nice. So 3 years, 23 a
Alex,
year.
You want to math that again?
Yeah, it was 3 years, 13 million. I don't know if you did the math. I did the math for you, buddy.
Yeah. In the office, he goes, that's $13 million. I went, no,
that's what happens when you do quick math, ladies and gentlemen. Take your time, show your work.
Carry your ones and twos.
Yeah, show your work when you do the work.
Very close. Did you guys even have a visceral reaction to this? Because last year when they added Tanner Scott, I was like, you got to be bleeping kidding me. This time around, I was like, okay, yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
It didn't even affect me. And now, if they trade for Tarek Skubal, I'll be pissed. But this one did nothing for me. And this is arguably the biggest postseason weapon you could add if you're the Dodgers, whose bullpen has been in shambles for like 5 years running now in the postseason.
I mean, honestly, if they trade for Tarek Skubal, I'm not going to be pissed.
Oh, really?
It's just going to be like, yeah, Like, we're at the point now where you should always be numb to the Dodgers. If there is the best available player at a certain position, plan on them being a Dodger. Unless the Dodgers don't want them, which would be a weird thing to say.
Kyle Tucker, come on down.
Yeah.
It's weird as the Dodgers don't seem to want him.
They're like,
Well, we'll see.
You know what? I don't know if we need it. But
They said yesterday they didn't expect to make any significant moves to add to the roster,
This
and
is
then
all-
today they added Edwin Diaz.
isn't-
So I
this
don't
is-
know.
Yeah, it was only
Insignificant.
$69 million and no deferred money.
this is what it is. Like, the Dodgers are the hated team. They're going to throw the money at whoever is available or trade the pieces for whoever's available. So, yeah, I shook my head and was like, yeah, checks out, because the Dodgers always get the best available player at a position that they need for that team.
Yeah, this one didn't really bother me. This wasn't like the Blake Snell last offseason where it's like, what the bleep was that? And I don't know if it's because I am getting the numbness from the Dodgers like Alex brings up, because I do think there is some of that where you just kind of accept your fate that there's this evil empire out west. But for me, it was, oh, you stupid baseball organization just spent money on another closer. We've seen this in the past, big money deals. Now, Diaz ended up working out fine for the New York Mets, but never pay bullpen arms. I've said this a lot on the show. The bullpen market as a whole is just too volatile. I mean, look, they signed Tanner Scott. You mentioned that contract they gave him last year. They didn't even want to use him in October this year because they didn't trust him. Think of that. That was supposedly the big signing that put them over the top last year, and he carried a 4.74 ERA.
Can I have one quick aside on that? The track record for Tanner Scott is a little different than the track record for Edwin Diaz.
I mean,
Edwin Diaz has been awesome.
I get it.
For like almost a decade.
Yeah.
I get it. I still don't trust signing bullpen arms to long-term contracts. I mean, you look at it last year, last year he was good 2 years ago, he had like a 3.6 ERA.
3.5. Do you know how many times he has had an ERA in his career over 3.5?
I think it's twice.
It's one. One time he's had an ERA over 3.5 for his career, which now spans 520 appearances and about 500 innings. He has a 2.8 ERA. I'm guessing among all pitchers that have appeared in at least 500 games or have at least 500 innings thrown since the start of the 2016 season, my guess is Edwin Diaz is in the top 3 in ERA.
Also, let's not act as if the Dodgers signing a bullpen arm to a long-term deal is like somebody else in Major League Baseball, because this one they could just be like, yeah, okay, cool. It didn't work out 2 years from now. We won a World Series. We got to another. It didn't work out after that, so we'll move on and we'll just go sign the next guy with all the big money.
Yeah, I still I just look at this and go, it could blow up in their face, and I would be like, I told you so.
Here you go. You ready?
Are they signing somebody else now?
No. Best ERA in Major League Baseball among pitchers that have appeared in at least 400 innings since the start of the 2018 season. Number 1, Jacob deGrom. Number 2, Josh Hader. Number 3, Edwin Diaz.
The Josh Hader one doesn't bode well for our argument.
Yeah, well, fair. He was not good last year.
But still, the Dodgers don't care if there's $23 million to a guy that's awful. They'll just go sign another guy for $25 million who's great.
Yeah, if you expand it back to 2016, which would be the start of his career, it's deGrom, Hader, Kershaw, Raisel Iglesias, Aroldis Chapman, Kenley Jansen, and then after that, it is Edwin.
Say it with me. Salary cap. Salary cap.
Even their manager's calling for one.
Well, he wants a floor.
Well, he's right. It doesn't matter.
What a time to be alive.
I love it. Cardinals are probably making the next big move.
Probably. Do you guys think they get something done at some point in the next 24 to 36 hours? So before
Cardinals?
the end of the winter meetings?
No.
I know we'll talk about this a little bit later on. I think they're kind of stuck in the log jam of every other market that's going on right now. The winter meetings, the Marte, the Alonsos, the Bregmans.
Yeah.
I think they got to wait.
I always thought that this was just the startup of the conversations, and then you're going to wait a couple more weeks after
I'll
it.
say they get aggressive. I'll say they do something.
Like a one-year
in the
deal
next
for a
36
starter?
hours.
Like a
No,
3-year,
I think they
$13
make a
million
trade.
deal.
I think before leaving, I think they complete a deal.
Like Pajes to the Royals.
Yeah, something like that, maybe. I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to be, but I think they make a deal at some point before the close of the winter meetings. By the way, am I right on the timing of this? Is today the MLB draft?
Yeah.
Lottery.
4:30, I think,
This
is what time it
afternoon?
is.
2.9%, I think I saw the
Yeah.
Cardinals have.
Never tell me the odds.
We're going to get there.
Number 1 overall selection coming your way. I
only
have no
time when
idea who
it's-
the top prospect is, but he's coming here to
If
save
only I
us.
had a tinfoil theory on Major League Baseball draft lottery like I do the NHL.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. It's 11:16. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. In about 15 minutes, I think the Blues are making the right call to go back to Joel Hofer and net. We'll talk a bit about that coming up here in 15 minutes. But next, what did we learn from the NFL game last night? There's at least one effect on a team that did not play that we'll tell you about next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So, game was played last night. It was kind of one of those if a tree falls in a forest and nobody's there to see it, did it actually fall? Did it make a sound? The game was played.
Played loose term.
It wasn't well played. The Chargers found a way to win, though. What did we learn from this, Alex? What did we learn from the Eagles, from the Chargers, two playoff hopefuls in their own accounts? What did we learn from this game where Jalen Hurts finished with 4 interceptions and I think 100 turnovers?
Yeah, and he had, 2 in 1 possession, which congrats, Jalen.
Threw an interception, then fumbled.
Yeah, the first player in NFL history to do that, so congrats on that one. I mean, what I learned is probably that the Chargers aren't dead. I guess what we learned is that the Chiefs are officially dead
We'll get
now.
to it.
But the Chargers aren't dead, which I thought they were going to be. I didn't think they were going to win any more football games. And then on the flip side of that, I think because the Chargers aren't dead, it goes to show you that the Eagles are losing a lot of faith in this one. I mean, I've stuck to it, and I partially believe it still, that I think they can be a playoff caliber team once you get into the playoffs because those teams just know how to play to that level. That's why I think if the Chiefs were to get in, they'd be a dangerous team. But, man, confidence is waning on that team because the more and more I watch them, they can't do anything. Offensively, it's just bad. Barkley's invisible. Hurts is not good. And then defensively, man, if you take Jalen Carter out of that defense, it is leaky. So I think that would probably be the bigger thing that you learned is the Eagles' confidence is starting to wane of them being a team that I believe could get to a Super Bowl.
So the Super Bowl thing for sure. Like, I don't see them as a legitimate Super Bowl threat this year. I just don't think they have it. I don't think that switch is getting flipped. I mean, we've waited all season long for that moment, and it just isn't happening. They're figuring out how to get A.J. Brown involved, and the offense is still a shell of itself. Like, the last 3 weeks, A.J. Brown, 110, 130, 100 yards last night. So he's had more than 340 yards receiving over the last 3 weeks. They're consistently getting him involved. And the offense is looking every bit as bad as it did prior to him being involved in it. Last night, Saquon Barkley had 125 yards on the ground. He finally got going on the ground. It was his first 100-yard game, only his second 100-yard game all season, first one since October. And it, again, still looked like a shell of itself. I do think they're getting in, though. I think they're going to make the postseason because their schedule is just so light the rest of the way. They take on the Raiders, and we know how bad they are. Every week that Alex was still involved in his survivor pool,
we've moved past it,
he
man.
tried to go up against the Raiders if possible.
Tried. The next 4 weeks were set up against the Raiders.
Then they have 2 games against the Commanders. We know how bad they are. So that's 3 likely wins for the Eagles. In that scenario, you get to 11. There's no way for Dallas to be able to match that because they already have 6 losses plus the tie. So the best they can do is 10 wins on the season. I think they're getting in, but last night reminded me they can't do anything more than that. They're just not as good as the Rams, the Packers. I wouldn't have them up there with the Seahawks. I even think the 49ers are a little better than them. And I trust, despite the losses piling up, I actually trust the Lions to figure it out more than I trust the Eagles to figure it out at this point in the season. So they would be pretty low on my list of contenders in the NFC.
Yeah, they remind me of what they were 2 years ago. And I think they could end up with the same record. That year they went 11-6, but that's the team that lost, I think it was 5 of their last 6, and then wasn't even competitive in the playoffs against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. Like, that's what they feel like to me. I watch them and I go, man, they keep talking about all these things we got to do offensively and how we're going to get the ship righted. And nothing ends up changing. You're right. Brown's been better. Barkley's been better. And I still watch that offense go, this is painful. It is hard to watch them play football. I think you're right. They're going to get in because they've already done enough to kind of secure that spot for themselves and their schedule's easy the rest of the way. They are the team that I look at that I typically view. There's always one team that ends up either winning their division or gets in the playoffs that you can circle and go, no matter who they're playing, they're out. And I think that's the Eagles this year in the NFC. They're just not good enough in this deep of a conference.
Before we go to the AFC and the Charger side of things, we've spent a decent amount of time talking about the offense, talking about the issues for the Eagles. Their quarterback was awful last night. I mean, Jalen Hurts is the reason that they lost that football game. Do you guys think there's any scenario in which they look to move him after this year? Because the Eagles are, if it wasn't them, I wouldn't even be bringing this up. Like, no other team would probably move on. But we've seen the Eagles do something like this in the past. They did it with their last quarterback that they believed in Carson Wentz. And they were like, this is going the wrong direction. They had just gone to the Super Bowl. They won it with Nick Foles. They're like, we're done. We're done with the Carson Wentz experiment. They could do it. If you look at the trade, like the way that it works against their cap, it would be $30 million of cap hit. So it's basically a dollar for dollar. That they wouldn't save any money by trading Jalen Hurts, but they'd get the assets that come in return. Could you see the Eagles doing this in the offseason? They're not going to cut him. That doesn't make any sense. But trading him?
I mean, unless they're getting something better in return, which I don't know how many teams are going to move off from another quarterback that's better than what Jalen Hurts has been. I think it's more likely they'd fire Nick Sirianni before they'd move on from Jalen Hurts. I think they'd go get a different head coach to try and come in and reignite the flame for Jalen Hurts, because this season, despite the struggles, I mean, you still have what he did last year, and you'd see it and you'd say, there's still more there. If you're going to trade Jalen Hurts, where's your upgrade coming from?
Yeah, that's the tough part finding. Like, I think they would be aggressive enough to do it, because I think they've got kind of that Rams mentality in them where they moved on from Goff and got Stafford for an upgrade, a clear upgrade. I just don't see who that guy is yet for them. Now, maybe that changes. Like, we hear rumors in the offseason if somebody becomes available. Then I could see where they would do it. Or, like, the other thing, too, is I don't think there's a quarterback in the draft where, like, you're willing to trade your first-round picks, bring in a rookie quarterback, and move on from Jalen Hurts. So I kind of lean with Alex. I think it's more likely they would lean towards, okay, let's fire Sirianni. I brought up the team 2 years ago. That was the same year that after they got eliminated in that offseason, it was, hey, like, Sirianni and Hurts didn't even say hi in the hallway. Like, they just didn't talk to each other. So I think that's more likely the path they would go, is they would fire Sirianni.
I think I agree, but
I agree with your premise, though.
That market's different, man. They do stuff that you don't see coming. I don't know who the answer would be, but sometimes this league surprises us, and quarterbacks that we didn't think were available in the last 5 years or so suddenly become available. I don't know who that player is. Maybe it's Tua, right? Maybe this offseason Tua becomes available and they say, we're going to make the move for him. I'm with you. Maybe they say, hey, Mac Jones at $3 million is actually something that makes sense for us, because we can go out and get multiple first-round picks for Jalen Hurts. Somebody else can have him. He's their problem. And we can now reset our timeline. We get a cheaper quarterback that resets the books, and we can build around whoever the next guy is. And in the 2026 class, we'll draft somebody in the first round. I'm not telling you it will happen, but if this thing continues going south, they're the kind of organization that's willing to make aggressive and surprising moves quicker than any of us anticipated. On the other side of things with the Chargers, I think they're probably making the playoffs now. They're at 9-4 on the season, and that has huge ramifications for the Chiefs. I don't know how many people care about this, but they're the biggest story in sports, so let's talk about it for just a moment here. The Chiefs going into yesterday really needed the Chargers to lose. If they had lost, they would be 8-5 on the season, and that means they're only 2 games up of the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have a head-to-head game against them, which means the Chiefs, like the other 3 games, would just need them to lose 1 because they would have the tiebreaker potentially. Well, now that didn't happen. So the Chargers are now 3 games up on Kansas City. That's a lot with 4 games left to play. Meanwhile, the Bills are 3 games up on the Chiefs and have the tiebreaker. It ain't happening. The Bills are not losing out the rest of the way. The Texans are 2 games up on the Chiefs and have the tiebreaker. That ain't happening. Those are the other 2 spots that are available in the AFC playoff race. So it is basically Chiefs versus Chargers for that last playoff spot. Here is the Chargers' remaining schedule. Next Sunday, it is a true win or you're completely eliminated for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs play against the Chargers at home again. It's a short week for the Chargers. They're beat up to hell. You've got to win this game. I don't think they will, but you've got to win this game if you want any chance of getting in. Then the Chargers, if you're a Chiefs fan and you want them to get in for whatever reason, or you're rooting against the Chiefs and you want the opposite, this is what they have available. Chargers will travel on the road at Dallas. Then they have the Houston Texans at home. Then they finish out the season on the road at the Denver Broncos, who very well could be, based upon their own schedule, playing for the number 1 seed and the bye in that game. There's a good chance that it has real meaning in that Week 18 game. So it's possible the Chargers go 1-3 in that stretch with a loss next week against Kansas City. I don't think it's particularly likely, and that is what is necessary in order for Kansas City to get into the postseason. So yesterday, the Chiefs' odds of getting into the playoffs were already on life support. Now they're like, head into the ICU. And it's rough, man.
Let's take you guys out. Let's unplug your life support. Let's just let you guys die in a peaceful sleep, okay?
Nobody wants to lay there anymore and just have people take care of you. You know, just
tired of wasting my
go
Saturday.
to a better place.
Tired of wasting my Sundays watching you guys.
Dude, this AFC, these playoffs are going to be hard to watch. I know nobody wants to see the Chiefs, but you look at some of the teams that are going to be playing this year, there's going to be a lot of bad football.
Oh, yeah. We're going to potentially have to watch
the Jaguars, the Steelers, the Chargers,
it's going to be old
the
school
Texans.
football. Running the football. Good defense while you're going to be watching.
A lot of 17-13.
It's the year of the Bill.
A lot of unders this year in the playoffs, boys.
The year of the Bill.
Meanwhile, watch the NFC because I think that's going to be really fun. The NFC playoff picture is much better.
What the hell makes the Chiefs the biggest story in sports, dude? You're such a homer.
Yeah, you Chiefs homer. Bet you want to plug your Chiefs podcast right about now, don't you?
No, I have never done that.
You're right about them, too.
I do, arrowheadpride.com.
See?
The reason why they're the biggest story in sports is because the NFL is the biggest sport in America, and they have been the biggest story in that sport for 7 years. And now, America loves nothing more
like a homer
than seeing somebody or something go from the top and have that fall. We saw it with Tiger. We see it with child stars. We see it all the time. People love seeing that thing that was up at the top that falls off. And that's what we're witnessing right now with the Kansas City Chiefs falling off. And they're, unfortunately, in my opinion, fortunately for many of you, about to go straight off of that cliff.
Yeah. Woohoo!
And into a potential top 10 selection. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. But next, Alex, do you think the Blues are making the right call in going back to Joel Hofer and net tonight? We'll get into that and give you the latest update on Jordan Kyrou's status coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update, driven by Giant Londoff Chevrolet and Giant Londoff Autoplex. A couple of big signings in Major League Baseball at the winter meetings today. The Philadelphia Phillies re-signed Kyle Schwarber to a 5-year, $150 million contract, and the LA Dodgers added their bullpen by signing the top closer on the market, Edwin Diaz, 3 years at $69 million. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, Blues back in action as they host the Bruins. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. This Sports Center update was driven by Giant Londoff Chevrolet, Giant Londoff Autoplex, cdmilondoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. According to Morning Skate, the Blues are expected to go back to Joel Hofer tonight. I'll ask Alex what he thinks about that decision here in just a moment. But the Blues tweeted recently, Alex, or they sent out an update recently with Jordan Kyrou's status, saying that, quote, "We're happy with the results of the MRI, considering it could have been a lot longer." According to head coach Jim Montgomery, Kyrou's status is now labeled week to week. So that is your update on Jordan Kyrou. No real surprise there, but that is the news. Do you have any reaction to that, Alex?
No, it's good news because I thought that was going to be some type of ACL, MCL issue, kind of like Logan Cooley just had one happen to him where his leg went into the goalpost. I mean, the moment Kyrou dropped down and held his knee, I'm thinking that's a 6 to 8 month thing. So the fact that we're talking only week-to-week scenario, and Joe even said it on the pregame with me on Sunday that he was in pretty high spirits. I would imagine if you're Kyrou, it's because you avoided the worst. That's great news for the Blues if they can just kind of bide their time and continue to play this way and get Kyrou back. You get more offense back.
All right, so for the news tonight, Joel Hofer is expected to be in the starters net. Alex, we said this yesterday. We thought this was the right call. I don't think it should be a one-off. I think this should be the way that they go about it for a little bit here unless something changes. But Hofer's been your better goalie now for the last couple of weeks. Benner, we've known this for a really long time. When you overwork him, you get diminishing results from him. Is this something where you think something has actually changed and Hofer will get a decent amount of starts moving forward, or is this just kind of a one-off against Boston?
That's such a hard thing to answer. I personally believe this is Joel Hofer getting a little bit more runway here. But I also know that the Blues trust Jordan Binnington more than anything. And Jim Montgomery with Fastlane yesterday basically said, like, he thought Binnington was awesome in that game against Montreal. So this could just be a Hofer gets tonight, Binnington gets Thursday, Hofer gets Friday, and you go 1-1 each way moving forward. I love the decision to play Hofer in this one, though, because more times than not, if they thought Binnington was great in that game against Montreal, they would have played him here. But the fact that Binnington played against Boston last weekend or this past weekend didn't look great in that one, and he's had a couple of games where he has struggled, it makes sense to go to the guy that's the hot hand for you. And frankly, I mean, both goalies have been bad on home ice. Hofer's been better as of late on home ice. So I think this is the smart decision. If I'm the Blues, I'm riding Hofer 2 of every 3 moving forward. But I totally, absolutely can see a scenario where they say, yeah, we're going to go Hofer, we're going to go Binnington, we're going to go Hofer, we're going to go Binnington all the way up until that Christmas break.
I think this is them starting to do that flip to Hofer, where they're going to ride him. And I don't think it's like 4 straight. I think it is what Alex is talking about, where it is 2 out of every 3. Maybe you do it a little differently. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, since they've got the back-to-back tomorrow, and you want to avoid maybe the goalie seeing Nashville twice in 3 days. Maybe you kind of flip it up a little bit there where Binnington starts tomorrow. But I think they are going to start riding Hofer. I get what Monty said on the fast lane yesterday. He's just going to continue to pump up his guy because they know eventually they're going to get back to Jordan Binnington. But right now, when your season is on the brink, yeah, you got to ride the hot hand. And yes, Benner was fine in that game against Montreal, but Hofer stood on his head in Ottawa. So I think you're looking at Hofer, who's played well over his last 3 or 4 starts, as the guy to move forward with.
So I think you actually look at this in like 10-day increments here. So you've got today against Boston, Thursday/Friday, Nashville and Chicago. And then you've got Monday against Nashville again. Then you go Wednesday, Thursday. So another back-to-back. So you have 2 sets of back-to-backs over the next 10 days, basically. So those you're just splitting. And then the other 2 games, I think, go Hofer. For me, that's the way that I would go about it. That means Boston tonight goes to Hofer, Nashville next Monday goes to Hofer, and then you split the other two. So over the next 6 games, you've got 4 for Hofer. So it's your split, Alex, the 2 out of 3. 4 for Hofer, 2 for Benner. That's the way I'd like to see them go about this. We know they're going to split the back-to-backs. That's the way they've always operated. So that part is not a surprise. The game that will be telling is next Monday against Nashville. That will tell us if they go back to Bennington there, it will suggest this is actually nothing different. They just decided to reward Hofer for his game over the weekend, and he got the game against Boston, and maybe it's something about how Bennington did not have a great game against Boston last time either. There's a matchup issue there, whatever it may be. But Nashville next Monday will be the proverbial, canary in the coal mine type of situation. That will be much more telling than what we see tonight against Boston.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be watching to see if they give a goalie back-to-back games in terms of Hofer gets Boston, Nashville, or they go Hofer with Boston, Bennington versus Nashville, and then Hofer goes Chicago, Nashville.
That would be my guess.
If a goalie's going to get 2 of 3 in that stretch without those back-to-backs, which I know the back-to-backs have a role in this one, but 4 of 6 is going to tell you that they're leaning more into Joel Hofer.
My guess on the way that I would go, not my guess, the way that I would personally schedule this thing out, I would give Hofer tonight. I would give Hofer Friday against Chicago and then Monday against Nashville. So that way Nashville sees Benner on Thursday and then Hofer on Monday. And then I would go back to Bennington on Wednesday against Winnipeg. And I would have Hofer on Thursday against New York. That way you give Hofer the necessary rest between these games. And you don't show Nashville the same goalie twice in a 3-day span. That's the way that I would personally go about scheduling this thing. But I'm really fascinated because you could be right, Alex. Maybe what they do is Hofer tonight, Hofer versus Nashville, and then Benner, and you just kind of continue along there, and it's 3-3.
Yeah.
And it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah, because, I mean, you got to pick up wins more than anything right now. You still have yet to have a 3-game win streak. You could get it with Hofer tonight against Boston, and if you get that and Hofer plays a decent game, there's travel in between, so more than likely they'd go Bennington versus Nashville on that Thursday. But, man, if Hofer plays well or robs this game for you again, I think I go Hofer against Nashville to try and string some games together. Bennington then would get Chicago, to where Hofer had a bad game against Chicago earlier this season. And then if Hofer performs well against Nashville, I'd go right back to Hofer against the Predators again.
Be interesting to watch what they decide to do here. We will see it all in action tonight. Blues versus the Boston Bruins. Alex has pregame coverage starting this evening at 6 o'clock. Puck drop tonight on your home of the Blues 101 ESPN at 7. We'll break that all down with our Blues insider Jeremy Rutherford coming up at 12:30. By the way, the Last Minute Blues podcast is going live at Hot Shots in Fenton next Tuesday in support of Operation Food Search. If you want more details on this, it's December 16th at Hot Shots in Fenton. All of those can be found at 101ESPN.com. Alex Ferrario will be there. JR will be there. Donny will be there. And they have a special guest that will be joining them live for the podcast. Tony Twist is going to be joining them. So go out there, hang out, say hello, listen to their live podcast. It's all available for you. The details at 101ESPN.com. The Last Minute Blues podcast can also be found at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL and wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 for questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK for my friends at Victory Men's Health. It's time for you to unlock your inner champion. There's one place to do so. It is victorymenshealth.com. When you get to their website, you can learn about all of the different services that they have to offer for you. You can also book that first appointment online. I'll tell you about that process. It's incredibly easy here in just a moment. But when you get over to their website, you can learn about what they can do to help you with erectile dysfunction issues. They can help you with your low testosterone symptoms. They can help you with weight loss goals that you're trying to meet right before the new year. You got those New Year's resolution. You want to lose some of that unwanted weight. I know, hey, we've all been there. You can check out what they can do to help you out with that at victorymenshealth.com. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and my favorite part about it, you walk through the door, they're state-of-the-art locations. You walk to the back, you see they've got these leather couches that you can sit in as you get those vitamin infusions. Their rooms are cozy. You're going to be talking to people that actually know what they're doing and have your best in mind. So check them out today. Victory Men's Health. Book that first appointment online at victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Let's get to your questions. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 618, guys, with the excess of catchers on the Cardinals roster, do you see one of Pages or Crooks potentially being on the outs this offseason? I could see it.
Like getting traded?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you were to ask them, it's Herrera and then one of Bernal or Crooks. You have one of those guys there, and more than likely, I know Crooks got it last year, but it seems they're higher up on Bernal.
I think Bernal's a little ways away, but eventually he could be somebody that's
so maybe
part
you.
of this.
And it feels like you wouldn't move on from Bernal yet, but unless you're getting something back, because they're going to need a backup catcher, somebody that they can trust to play. And I know they brought back Pozo, so that's probably it. But you're probably going to carry 3 because then Pozo's going to be a guy that can come off of the bench for you. And I know you don't like to do that if you've got only 2 catchers. So I think they keep one of those 2, Crooks or Bernal. I think Pages is as good as gone.
Yeah, I'm not. I think they're going to trade a catcher. I don't know if it's going to be Crooks, Bernal, or Pages. I'm not sure which yet. They like Pages, but if you're going to go with Herrera behind the plate, Pages doesn't bring as much value because they loved him for what he did with the pitching staff. So maybe they do decide to move him, and then you create a spot for Jimmy Crooks. They are going to move on from a catcher. I just don't know who.
From the 618, do we have any hope in Tulane? They've been pretty good so far this year. I don't mind them plus the 17.5 against Ole Miss to win outright. I mean, if you want to throw a few bucks on it, cool. They're 6-1.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to, but if you don't mind losing your money and you like
don't mind losing your money,
I'm saying, like, if you like the idea of just having a few bucks on the game, the potential of a significant payout, go for it.
Do you believe in the Green Wave? They only lost like 56-7 to Ole Miss earlier this year.
I think everybody should throw their money on James Madison and Tulane.
Oh, now James Madison, I'm sorry, they're going to get killed.
Yeah.
Tulane, though, I kind of agree, PK. I could see where they could cover the spread.
17.5 is just a huge spread, man.
Yeah. Winning, though, that I don't really see.
And if you're Ole Miss, like during the regular season, there is actually value in blowing these teams out because it adds to your resume. The bigger the margin, the better it looks on your resume. In this game, if you go up by 3 scores in the fourth quarter, there's no reason to leave your starters in because it's just win in advance. It doesn't matter what the style points are.
Yeah.
So if you're up by 3 scores, you pull your starters with 6 minutes left to go. There's a good spot for a potential backdoor cover for Tulane. So I actually, plus 17.5, I do kind of like. But outright, no, I will not be picking Tulane. I'm glad they're there, though.
Do it.
I'm glad they're
I'll be rooting for the Green Wave.
Right.
Do it. They'll win straight up.
From the 618, BK, why do you think it's going to be a bad playoffs? Because of the teams that are in. They've earned their way in, that's capitalized, and beat, capitalized, your Chiefs cry a little more.
Are you doing a Notre Dame over there? Is that what that was, that segment?
It's not about the Chiefs. The Chiefs also aren't a fun team to watch. So they wouldn't really change this, honestly. But I think this is pretty definitive. The Broncos are a defense-first team. That makes games ugly. Now, maybe you love watching defense in the NFL. If so, God bless you. It's not my preferred style. I don't think it's something that sells very well. I don't think that is the predominant interest for fans that are highly engaged in sports betting and fantasy. So the Broncos are a defense-first team. Texans defense-first team. The Steelers stink. I think we can all agree with that. The Chargers are highly erratic at best, as are the Jaguars. And then all that's left is the Patriots, who are completely unproven on this stage. They may be great. Maybe they're the team that leads you to the promised land, but they're completely unproven. Typically, it takes time, and you stub your toe before you knock the door down. And then there's the Bills, who have not been good most of the season. So the reason I think the playoffs are going to be ugly is because the teams that are participating play ugly football for the most part.
It might be ugly, but it's exciting.
On the AFC side of things.
It's exciting for me. I like new blood. And the fact that you're going into a postseason, with the exception of the Bills, with a lot of teams that you haven't seen on this stage before, or at least in a long time, you haven't seen most of these teams. That, for me, is much more fun. Now, the games probably will be ugly, but to me, I think they're going to be a little bit more exciting, at least in the AFC side of things.
I think we feel that way until the Chiefs are not a part of it, and the Ravens are not a part of it, and we don't have either of those teams to go up against the Bills, and now we're wishing that we had those same characters involved.
Maybe,
to root for or against. I think a lot of people root against the villains, and that's cool, but not having them a part of it, in my opinion, takes a little bit of the excitement away from it.
I'll tell you this, nobody's going to be cheating in the AFC this year.
Okay.
Oh, true. About time they got the Zebras off their payroll.
I'll have to watch Patrick Mahomes.
I actually don't mind. I'm kind of with Alex. Now, maybe I'll change my tone when I watch those football teams, but I've been watching them all season long, and I've seen a lot of their ugly football.
Yeah.
And I don't mind that I'm watching the Chiefs stay at home, right? I think this just depends. Do you think there needs to be an evil empire or a villain when it comes to the postseason? And I don't, and typically you lean that way.
Yeah, this is my sensibilities. It's not just on the Chiefs. I'm talking about this from the college football side of things. All year long, I've been talking about it. I don't know who's good because the teams that are great typically will give me that measuring stick, and we haven't really had that this year in college football either.
Yeah, and I just view this, I'm kind of with Alex, it's new blood. I agree. It's going to be ugly football. If you thought watching Iowa was hard, welcome to the NFL's version of it with the Broncos, with the Patriots
Texans.
kind of a little bit in that. Texans, if they make it in. The Chargers will play that style. Oh, man, it is going to be low scoring.
You have a villain, buddy. Aaron Rodgers is going to be in the playoffs.
How about this?
Yeah, that's true.
According to reports, Phillip Rivers is expected to sign with the Indianapolis Colts.
Hey man, when you have 17 kids, you got to make sure you're still bringing in some dough. I get it.
He has not played in 5 years, man.
Somebody just put this out. The last time Phillip Rivers had an NFL contract, there were 16 games in the season. Baker Mayfield won a playoff game for the Browns. J.J. Watt was a Texan. Rodgers was a Packer. And Caleb Williams was in high school. And Rivers had to have had, what, only 4 kids at that time?
The Chiefs have been to like 4 Super Bowls.
They've won 3, I think.
Tyreek Hill was traded after. Like the next season, Tyreek Hill was on the Chiefs and then was traded.
Hey, man, I'll give credit to the Colts, though. Like, you got to go desperation mode and not let Riley Leonard play. If Joe Flacco can do it, Phillip Rivers can do it.
The last time that Phillip Rivers played football, the Tennessee Titans included Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and their head coach was Mike Vrabel.
The good old days.
And they won their division and went to the AFC.
There's got to be better options out there than Phillip Rivers. Like, come on.
There is.
I know you mentioned Riley Leonard. He's dealing with an injury. Like, I would feel much better about going with Riley Leonard than I would Phillip Rivers. He hadn't played in 5 years.
Hey, man, if he's got an arm.
Are we sure he can get up if he gets hit?
Drew Brees was the Saints starting quarterback the last time that.
And he was
How old
old
was he?
He was old at that point,
100.
too. He had to be like 41.
You just need 5 games out of
I hope.
Rivers.
I haven't seen a picture of, like, Phillip Rivers now. I hope he's got, like, this big, long gray beard.
That'd be awesome.
That's incredible.
I love it.
Who do the Colts play this week? I know he's on the practice squad, so like they're kind of iffy if he's going to start.
The last Phillip Rivers throw was in a 20% capacity stadium during COVID in the 2021 NFL playoffs. It was a Hail Mary that fell 8 yards short.
Oh, see, he didn't have enough. Oh, they're going against the Seahawks this week?
Man.
Oh, my gosh.
Oof.
Welcome back to the NFL.
Jonathan Taylor, here's the football.
Amazing. I don't think it's going to go well.
I agree.
Personally,
I think
that's
they win
my
the Super
opinion on
Bowl.
the matter.
44-year-old Phillip Rivers, MVP.
Wouldn't that be something?
Somebody in the text line said, BK, Alex, T-Bone, what's your best play in the NFL this weekend? Minus 120, the highest juice I can use.
Look,
I'm guessing there's a reason for that.
Look, man, I had to take a couple of days away from sports betting after the last few days, so I'll let you know on Wednesday or Thursday when I take a look at it.
Haven't looked much of the slate for the upcoming weekend.
I love Broncos money line this weekend.
Chargers money line plus 180 at the Chiefs. I spent 2 seconds looking at it. What would you guess the Chargers Chiefs line is?
Well, since you said it
Chargers
was
on the road.
plus money for
I
the
know,
Chargers.
I apologize.
I'm going Chiefs minus
3.5.
I think it'd be like it was this week, 2.5.
4.5.
What the bleep?
Yeah, that's a line that I like.
I like.
Bengals money line at home plus 120 against the Ravens.
There's some odd. This is another weird week for the lines. Another weird week because Broncos are at home against Green Bay. You know who's favored? Green Bay minus 2.5.
I think that's right.
Oh no, that's wrong. The Broncos
would
are a
agree
better
with that.
football team.
The Seahawks, by the way, minus 13.5 this weekend against the Colts. I don't know if Rivers is going to play this weekend or not.
That's
but
probably
minus
gonna go up.
13.5.
I'm going to hammer that one. Can I hammer it now for 13.5?
That's nuts.
Because that's going up to 17.5 by kickoff.
It's 12:01. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Coming up at 12:30, we'll be joined by our friend and the Blues insider, Jeremy Rutherford, here on the show. But next, oh boy, you were mad about my Chiefs take. Wait until you hear our conversation about Oli Marmol and what his future holds with the St. Louis Cardinals. Talk about it next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So, Alex, yesterday, Oli Marmol was on MLB Network. We don't have to play the audio, but he was asked about Victor Scott II and whether or not he would be an option for the Cardinals at the top of the lineup. And he had that grin on his face that I've seen so many times when I'm asking him a question that I know, okay, so he doesn't like the premise. And
stupid question. He's thinking.
Must be a lot of questions.
You could tell it was one of those where he's like, yeah, we're probably not going to start out that way. But, like, could we do it? Sure, depending on who's available for us. And the reason that I bring this up is not so much to discuss the merits of Victor Scott II being your leadoff hitter. I think you can make an argument one way or the other depending on, again, where the roster ends up. But I have to see what the roster is first before I can even have that conversation of who's batting leadoff, who's the opening day starter, who's closing games out. I have no idea on any of these answers until we see the 26-man roster.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're not bringing in any leadoff hitters. So it's either guys staying put or you're going to have to go from the roster that's here.
But it could be Brendan Donovan. It could be Mason Wynn. It could be Victor Scott II. I can make a case for a lot of different players, but right now I don't know who's going to be here. So I say all of that to say this. There is a case for Victor Scott II, but it probably isn't anything about winning games in 2026. It's more about the belief that Victor Scott has the potential to be your leadoff hitter when you're good again in 27, 28, or 29. And if that's the plan, if that's the direction that this team hopes to go in, you probably need to give Oli Marmol an extension.
Ooh, the buzzword, BK.
Because he is, right now, a lame duck manager. He's entering the final year of his contract in 2026. I don't know that there's a ton of urgency to get this done, but I think we can all kind of feel where this is going. They're going to move off of most of their good players. They're going to tear it down before they build it back up. This is a true rebuild. And when you're going through something like this, I think it's helpful as an organization to incentivize the manager to make the moves that are necessary while knowing I've got security here. I'm not at risk of losing my job because we're losing baseball games, in part because of decisions that aren't directly impacting us winning right now. Like starting Victor Scott II, for example, as a leadoff hitter is not putting your best foot forward day to day. It's hard to argue that. The guy hit 215 last year. He's not your best option up there. He might be, though, in 2028. And if you believe that's going to be the case, maybe it is the right thing to do right now. But as the manager, do I have the belief that I'm going to be here in 28 to see that thing through? Or do I make moves today for today to save my own ass to be the manager in 28 when then I can make the decision on Victor Scott II and whether or not he's my best leadoff option? So I know nobody wants to hear it because a lot of people have already made up their minds on Oli Marmol, and many of them believe he's a bad manager. I'm not in that category. I think he's a pretty good one. I certainly don't think you're going to learn anything one way or the other this year on whether or not he's a good manager based upon wins and losses, which is how we typically evaluate these things, especially in St. Louis. So I think it makes some sense for the Cardinals this offseason to extend Oli Marmol. Is that something you personally agree with, Alex?
I do. I think it's dumb to have a manager, a lame duck manager, when you're going into a rebuild. Because nobody expects this thing to turn around in one season and the Cardinals to be a World Series contender next year. And you're going to have a lame duck manager and then bring somebody else new in for a couple of years for the team to still be in the middle of a rebuild. And then 3 years from now, if you're ready to be competitive, then you're going to bring, what, another manager in? I think if this is the guy that you've already had the conversations with for the last couple of years, if you're Chaim Bloom of the blueprint of what the Cardinals need to be and Chaim's trying to put it in that direction, then you need to sign the guy that you're having contract or you're having conversations with about what the future looks like for the Cardinals. If I'm being honest, I think Oli is going to manage with an extension, without an extension, to win baseball games. I don't think it's going to come down to, well, I don't have an extension, so I'm going to try and win, versus I got an extension, I'm going to try and focus on develop. I think he's going to try and do both. But if I'm the Cardinals, if I'm Chaim Bloom, and I want this thing to develop faster into being competitive, and he's all about urgency. And if you believe Oli Marmol is a good manager, which it seems they do, then you should invest in that good manager for the next 3 years and say, you're here, we've put a timestamp of we want this to be a 3-year window of us rebuilding. If it gets done quicker, great, but it needs to be done in 3 years. Then you sign the manager to that 3-year window and say, you're the guy that's going to take us out of this, and then we'll see what happens when we turn on the other side.
Yeah, I've been on board of giving Oli an extension since the season ended. Like, I just never thought it made sense to go into a season with a lame duck manager, because then what are you evaluating him on? And we even knew before some news came out that they were going to be a team that probably was going to be bad. So, okay, so I'm not judging him on wins and losses. I know at the time we had brought up, well, like, does he follow orders from Heim well enough? Well, I think he did that in a runway season. Look at how much runway he gave to players last year. And I know some people think that was a Mo directive. Heim was heavily involved in that directive to make that a runway season. So there's nothing to learn from having Oli Marmol as a lame duck manager. I don't think it makes any sense not to give him a contract extension. If we're being honest, he's overperformed expectations over the last 2 years. Last year, they had no business being in that playoff race for as long as they were with that roster. So, yeah, I would lock him up. I would give him about 3-4-year contract extension.
I think two extra years, so 3 years.
So this
total
year
deal.
And then 2 more. That's the 3-year window.
I think that seems more reasonable to me. But we got this from the text line from the 314. Guys, where would Oli Marmol be managing if he were to leave St. Louis? Where would he be managing if Mo hadn't promoted him? We're not talking about locking down a star here. It's not so much about that. I do think Oli Marmol would probably get an opportunity elsewhere, either as a bench coach or as somebody being a part of a development staff. I think he'd be pretty good in that capacity somewhere else. But the point that we're getting at is you want everybody pulling in the same direction. And let's just think about this for, like, put yourself in Oli Marmol's shoes, right? I don't know how he's going to think about this. I think he just operates a little differently than I do. Like, our sensibilities are different in this way. I'm more nervous about job security than it seems like
You're nervous a lot of things, buddy.
Yeah, in general, I have more anxiety than I think
don't
Oli
think he
does.
has a problem with flying either.
You don't think Ollie's got a problem with this?
No, probably not. But, I mean, it would be human nature to, I don't know, you're 60 games in, your team's 20-40. And you've been making decisions so far based upon what's best for you in 2026 and 2027. At a certain point in time, I would imagine, Alex, it goes through your mind, man, this thing's really starting to take on water. And we're losing a lot. And my decisions are not about winning today. What if I started making some decisions that are about winning today? I'll still play the young guys, but I'm going to put them in the best position to succeed today as opposed to where they will succeed in 2027. That would be natural, in my opinion, to do so if you're on a 1-year deal. If you're not and you have more security financially, just in terms of your status as the manager, I think it's easier to see that thing through. So if you're the Cardinals, this doesn't mean he will be the manager in 26 or 27. You're not guaranteeing that. You're guaranteeing him money. That's all this is. You're saying here is the dollar figure that is attached to you currently being the manager. And for Oli, that adds security. And for the organization, that adds certainty of what you're going to get from him as the manager. So you could still fight. If you hate him, if you think Ollie's the worst manager in the world, and the Cardinals decide that they agree with you after 2026, and they say, you know what, this isn't the guy that we want to lead us through the rebuild. That is a reasonable opinion to have, I think, at the end of next year. All it takes is you throwing some money out. And it's a hell of a lot less money than what you sent to Boston to get a couple of prospects back for Sonny Gray. It's a hell of a lot less money than what you're going to have to eat on Nolan Arenado's contract, or what you're probably going to eat on Wilson Contreras' deal, or what you have eaten on deals that didn't work out for you with Steven Matz or Miles Michaelis or Adam Wainwright or so many others over the years. It's probably a few $1,000,000 that you're adding to his deal to sweeten the pot, to put yourself in the best position to succeed in 26, 27, or 28, which is a hell of a lot more important than what happens in 2025. So that's why I would do it, because it's not actually guaranteeing anything to Oli other than some sense of security. And I think that's worth it. A few $1,000,000 for insurance next year, I don't think is a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I said this in the office, and I know it's somewhat different because the reference I'm going to make, the guy knew he was taking over in the following year, but it was that weird season that the Blues had Mike Yeo as the coach in waiting. Like, it was just, this weird dynamic of where is this team at? And I don't know if they're going to have that with the Cardinals because Oli is a very grounded individual. He's very honest, and I think the Cardinals know, like, if he doesn't have a contract, it's going to be, look, we're not going to judge you off of what you're doing this season, more so the development of the players. I just think if I'm Chaim Bloom and I want to do this right so it gets done faster, this rebuild, I want to make sure that everybody that is in a position to develop my younger players, because look, J.J. Weatherholt might be a part of this team this year. Liam Doyle, Quinn Matthews, they might be a part of this team this year. I don't want them to be a part of a team that's got a lame duck manager that's not all the way in it, which I don't think Oli would fall into even if he didn't have an extension. But have that confidence of saying this is the guy that's going to lead us hopefully out of this.
Last thing on this from the 314. How are we evaluating him in 2026 then? Does he get a free pass no matter what? Apply that logic to your own industry. Imagine how crazy that would be. Welcome to a rebuild, ladies and gentlemen. This is what it looks like.
Rebuild.
It's hard.
Rebuild.
I hate to tell people this, but Chaim's getting like 4 years of a free pass.
Yeah.
Like,
Again.
do you think he just came in and blew everything up because, like...
Now, he's already a year into that 4 years you're talking about.
No, I don't think he is.
This is year one.
I thought we talked about this past year
Because he
being
wasn't
year one.
making the
Zero,
roster
zero.
decisions.
Now, I didn't think they were going to go about it this way, man. I didn't think they were blowing this thing up, and they are.
Chaim took over and said, hey, ownership, this is a lot worse than I was expecting. I need a fresh start. And ownership said, you got it. Here's the 5-year deal to take over the pub operations. Like, he's not going to get evaluated on his, I think it's 5 years for Bloom. He's not going to get evaluated until maybe at the end of year 4. And then it'll come down to, do they want to do a contract extension with him? And if so, how long?
Bingo. And now imagine, like, on the Oli side of things, the hell are you evaluating him on? Player development is the honest to God answer.
And most of that should happen before it gets to Ollie's plate.
Correct. They still view it this way, though, where, like, there is development taking place at the major league level now, maybe more than ever before. So, sure, you can ask, are guys getting better at the major league level? Are they taking the steps? Are they playing hard? Like, these are the kinds of things that you're going to be evaluating them on. I know that seems rudimentary, but that's where you're at with your Cardinals, man. It's a different way to evaluate your roster day to day than it was previously. Alex, you mentioned in a couple of segments ago, talking about how they like Joe Opposo to have that third catcher for pinch hitting. This team is not pinch hitting much next year. Mm-hmm. We have to evaluate the way they assess their roster differently now, because who are you pinch hitting for? These young guys should get every opportunity, even if it's not the best chance for you to win that day. You got to take that at bat. Hey, Gorman, lefty on lefty. If he's still here next year, you got to take that at bat in the 9th inning to find out what you are. Hey, J.J. Weatherholt, I have no idea if he's going to be good against left-handed pitching or not, but let's assume he struggles early on. You're taking every opportunity against lefties. You're starting every single day unless you need a day off, in which case, yeah, you can go sit. But Mason Wynn, maybe you're a leadoff hitter next year. It's probably not the best guy to put you into a position to succeed, but maybe that's the way they have to go about it. So yeah, long story short, everybody's going to have to evaluate the manager differently next year, because the Cardinals are evaluating their team differently next year than they have in 30 years. It's going to be foreign to a lot of us, and we're going to go through it all together.
Right, who's ready for pitchers and catchers to report?
It's going to be different.
Yeah, let's get the baseball season going.
God, the Blues better be better soon.
How quick can we lose 100?
In 15 minutes, Jeremy Rutherford will join the show to talk about those St. Louis Blues. But next, Mizzou is apparently spending like a top 10 to 20 program in college football. I've always said the expectations at Mizzou should be different than some of these other blue blood programs. Is that changing now? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN. Alex and T-Bone on BK. Should we read this Frank Saravalli news real quick? I don't want to get into it too much because we don't have the full details. And there's a lot more that goes into this than just this report. But according to Frank Saravalli, he says on Twitter, hearing Dylan Dubé plans to sign an AHL agreement with Springfield, which is the affiliate of the St. Louis Blues. Dubé was one of the 5 Hockey Canada players acquitted of sexual assault charges in July from a 2018 incident in London, Ontario. Dubé is now 27 years old. He played last season in the KHL. Again, that's the extent of what we know right now. It's just this report from Frank Saravalli. Alex, you mentioned this during the break. We don't know if this is a deal specifically with Springfield. Mm-hmm. If this is some kind of a deal with the Blues where he will be sent to Springfield, we're not sure. I have not read enough about his specific involvement or lack thereof in the case to be totally candid, to give any kind of an informed opinion on the matter.
Yeah.
But I wanted to relay this to all of you. Again, from Frank Saravalli, hearing Dylan Dubé plans to sign an AHL agreement with Springfield, the affiliate of the St. Louis Blues. That is all we have right now. If we get more on it and more details from either the Blues, Springfield, whomever, we will pass those along and react to it as we go along here today. Do you have anything else that you want to add?
Just to add one thing to it, because I know you mentioned, I don't know if this is an NHL thing or if this is an AHL team. There are times that AHL teams sign players to contracts to fill out their roster. Like last year, during the season, they signed Kalen Addison, who's a former NHL defenseman, to an AHL contract to fill out the roster the rest of the way. And had no affiliation with the Blues. Like, yes, they're the Blues affiliate, but the team signs players to fill rosters. So that will be, if this happens, that will be kind of a interesting tidbit to see how they decided to do it.
And it is worth noting the Blues have like half of their AHL roster at the NHL level right now.
Yeah.
So.
And they just called up Hugh McGing, who's a forward, so they're probably lacking some forwards right now in the AHL.
Right now, from the AHL roster, the Blues have added Dvorsky, they've added Kaskamaki, they've added Luff, they just added Hugh McGing. They also terminated the PTO contract a couple of weeks ago of Lucic. That's 5 of their forwards. Mm-hmm. So it stands to reason that this would be one of those scenarios. But again, we don't have the details on that just yet. So wanted to pass that along. That's what we've got. All right. So on the Mizzou side of things, Alex, yesterday we got details on Eli Drinkwitz's extension. People are clowning Mizzou for giving him the automatic extension every year that Mizzou wins 8 games. I think that's a silly thing to do, but whatever. I'm obviously going to cape for my squad. If you go the way that the new conference schedules are going to work, Mizzou will get 3 non-con games every year, right? We agree? Mm-hmm. 3 non-con games. You then play, we're doing the math out loud here. You then play 9 conference games.
That equals 12. Yes.
That's 12.
Or 13.
To get to 8 wins, you have to go above 500 in the SEC. You would have to win 5 of your 9 conference games. That would get you to 8 wins every year.
And that's assuming you win against your power conference opponent that you have to have on your non-con schedule.
Correct. I have no problem with them saying if Eli Drinkwitz goes above 500 in conference play, you get an automatic extension. But let's set that aside for a second. The other big news in this report is that Drink is making a boatload of money, which we knew, and his assistants are now getting a huge spike in the amount of money that they have available to them. Alex, the reports are that Mizzou is now expected to be among the top half of the SEC in assistant pool, which means they're in like top 10 to 20 in the country. Because the SEC is basically the biggest contracts for coaches in the country are all in the SEC, and then a few are scattered across in the ACC/Big Ten. I have said all along, I believe that some Mizzou fans have acted as if they are Alabama, and there's this like college football playoff or bust mentality that has been creeping into really a lot of programs, but especially some Mizzou fans.
It's been ruining his football experience.
People aren't having fun watching college football anymore.
Correct. Yes, stop. Have fun.
Like Notre Dame. Have more fun, guys.
That's right. Mizzou's now spending like top 10 to 20 money on their college football program. They have invested heavily on the NIL front. They're investing heavily on the coaching staff. They have invested heavily in the facilities. Just go out to Columbia, you'll see all the cranes. Should I be changing my expectations for the team, given the amount of money that they are investing in this program?
I feel like you're baiting me into this right now to where you're saying, like, should I? So that I say, yes, you absolutely should. You'd be like, no, they still need to just have fun with a 9-win season.
8-win season.
It just feels like it's bait. I mean, for me, look, if you're gonna spend that much money, I mean, it makes sense because now your schedules get a lot more difficult because you're seeing a lot more of that top talent in the SEC. So you're gonna have to pay these guys accordingly. I do think it should raise somewhat of the expectations. Now, I'm not saying like it's a failure of a season if you miss the playoffs, but if you're investing this much into the program, if you're investing this much into the coaching staff, then I would expect my team to be competitive towards the top of the SEC, where you're ranked in terms of the spending that you're putting towards the program.
Yeah, I think it should raise expectations for Mizzou. You know, it's like watching a team add to their payroll in any professional sports. You don't just say, like, well, that's fun and all, but you know, I just hope we kind of win 9 games, go above 500, and are really good this year.
Just hope we have fun.
Yeah, no, when the moment you start spending more money on anything, your expectations do go up. So, yeah, I think expectations will rise at Missouri under Eli Drinkwitz. Now, do I think it's college football playoff or bust every year? No, I think it still holds true to be like, hey, there are going to be years where that needs to be the goal because you return a lot of your production. But I do think it is fair to say, like, hey, 8-9 wins needs to be the expectation now at Missouri. There cannot be one-off years where it's 6-7 wins.
And some of it goes to...
to be fair, he hasn't had that since he was able to get them to 10 wins for the first time.
This year was the down year, and it was 8-8.
Some of that expectation, too, is how successful you are in the portal. If you have a really successful year in terms of bringing some top talent through the portal, then my expectations raise versus the ones that you don't.
I'm going to list some teams real quick.
Oh, here we go.
Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, LSU. That's 8 teams. The SEC is 16 teams. That would be considered to be the top half of the conference. Every single one of those teams that I just mentioned expects to go 8-4 or better every single season. Every single one of them. I think Mizzou should now be in that category. They should be the 9th. Here's the problem. Just by math, that doesn't work. You can't have that many teams going 8-4 or better every single season, especially now that you're into a 9th conference game. There will be teams that fall short of those goals every year. And that's where things get tough for me. Like, should you expect college football playoff or bust? No, I think that's crazy. Because in the SEC, realistically speaking, you're getting 4 to 5 teams on a regular basis. It's not realistic for you to expect to be among the top 4 to 5 every single year. Because let's be frank, you're not Georgia, you're not Alabama, you're probably not Texas A&M. That's 3 of those 4 or 5 spots, most years being taken up. So you're battling for that final spot or 2 with Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Tennessee, LSU, etc. So should you have higher expectations now? Yeah, because I think previously it was 7-5. Now you've bumped up to 8-4, and you're hoping to have those ceiling years. I think that, to me, is the biggest thing. You got to have one. I know that they did. I've said this. I will defend it till the death. They did have one in 2023. What Gary Pinkel did is basically every recruiting cycle, he would have one. So every 4 to 5 years, he had at least one spike season at the University of Missouri. Can Drinkwitz maintain? Can he also hit another spike at some point in the next 2 to 3 seasons? That's got to be the goal. And if you can't, then we can reevaluate things and look at it a little bit differently. But that's how I personally am viewing the situation for Mizzou. Should your expectations rise? Absolutely. They should be basically what it's been over the last 3 years, and that should be the cycle moving forward. But should you be college football playoff or bust? In my opinion, no. I still do not feel that way. I don't think that's reasonable as a college football fan right now.
Yeah, I think that grouping that you read off there, like Tennessee, I think you put Ole Miss in there, that like second tier of the SEC schools, you need to be constantly there with them and then be able to win. You know, Drink gets ripped for not winning the big game. Those would fall into the big game when they are good.
Correct.
So when you're at that same year where Tennessee is good or whoever else you throw into that category is good, You beat them, now you take up one of those 2 final spots that are left up for grabs for the playoff.
314 on the text line said, finishing in the top 25 is the good season or bust barometer. I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I think most years Mizzou should expect to finish somewhere around that top 25.
Well, we failed this year.
So far, still got another game.
Not as big of a failure as Illinois, though. Am I right, BK?
Finished out the season, just to be clear. I have a feeling you're probably going to see Tulane fall out. You're probably going to see James Madison fall out. And there's going to be an opportunity.
Right, I'm not counting if you win a bowl game.
Hey, when you go into the sports reference database at the end of the season, it will show end of season AP/college football playoff rankings. And guess where Mizzou's going to finish?
I refuse.
Top 25, baby. If your Illini can finish out with a win, they might as well.
I'm not going to count
Alex
for them
and
either.
I'm BK. Coming up next, Jeremy Rutherford here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update, driven by Giant Londoff Chevrolet and Giant Londoff Autoplex. Blues will be back in action tonight as they host the Boston Bruins. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Gerber and Joey Vitale. And moves in Major League Baseball today from the winter meetings. Kyle Schwarber signs a 5-year, $150 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. And Edwin Diaz signs for 3 years and $69 million with the LA Dodgers. The Sports Center update was driven by Giant Londoff Chevrolet and Giant Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Every day, I swear, I get a new alert from our daycare that says, hey, kid went home with X, Y, or Z. It's just every single day.
Good thing, man. Got to build up that immune system.
So, with that, we go out to the Callie Aaron Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend, the Blues insider for The Athletic. He's Jeremy Rutherford joining us here on the show. JR, what's good, man? How you doing today?
His immune system is great.
Nothing, guys. Nothing. How you guys doing? Yeah, I remember those days. Those were not fun, especially when you were the one with the flexible job who just left the morning skate. My wife would say, can you slide by the daycare and pick up the kiddo? Like, here we go again.
He was like, no, sorry, I got to write an article.
Thank God for me. My wife works from home, so that helps. And then I get home at 2:30 or whatever, and I take over. But I digress. All right, Blues back in action this evening, JR. They're taking on the Bruins once again. It sounds like Joel Hofer is expected to be in net. I am curious, is this something where you feel like there's a shift taking place and they're going to lean more on Hofer over the next week or two? Or is this just kind of a one-off? And, the last time that these two teams met, Bennington wasn't very good. Hofer had a great start over the weekend, and they're rewarding him for that. How do you view this?
Yeah, I'm always a combination of things, Guy. I think that with the way Hofer's been playing lately, and then you add to the fact that, Bennington got the Boston game, and then you look at the fact that there's 8 games left before the Christmas break, and you have the 2 back-to-back, so they're going to split those. Hofer's played well at home. Like, you add up all those things, I really do believe that's what those conversations are like behind the scenes. But the overarching question here is, are they giving Hofer more? And I think there is a possibility of that. But, and I know you guys know this, but, we can map out the next 3 or 4 games and probably be close to what the Blues are thinking. But does that backfire, if Hofer doesn't play well tonight and they mix things up? So I think that Hofer has played well enough to earn some more playing time, and it looks like the Blues are giving it to him.
Do you think the play in front of Hofer, because this is the statement that I hear a lot when Hofer plays well and Bennington plays poorly, is, the team didn't play well in front of Jordan Bennington. Sure seems like they've been playing the same style in front of both goaltenders, right, JR?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, look, you can't throw out games, but Bennington, 3 out of his last 5-ish, I think, have been pretty good. You got the 2 goals on 5 shots in the Anaheim game, and then you had the Boston game. But, so 3 out of 5. And this Montreal, like Jim Montgomery said yesterday, Montreal game for Bennington, pretty good. So, Hofer's playing better, though, and you got to win games. And I think that, there's no reason not to stick with him right now. But, big picture, too, guys, the defense is playing better. And I talked to Jim Montgomery today, and I asked him, did you believe that when you changed the defensive system and you went to more man-to-man and that you were leaving the zone, that the goal production might be down for a little bit until people and players started to grasp, that okay, this is how we're going to play now with this system, and then they can get some chances. And he said, yeah, he felt so. So that coincides with when the Blues were starting to put up 2 goals a game when they switched to that man-to-man. And then now we see last game 4 goals. So are they getting more comfortable in the defensive end? Something they definitely had to do to kind of shore up the goals against, and then the offense would come. I think that could could be what we're seeing here based off that last game.
I'm glad you brought that up, JR, because I think it was last week when he was asked about this man-to-man hybrid defense, and he kind of said it quickly, but it was at the end of his statement where he said it's the same scheme that I ran when I was in Dallas. And if you go back and look at that year, 2018 to 2019, and then, of course, the early portion of the next season before he was let go, they were best in terms of goals allowed in the National Hockey League, and in terms of goals for, they were bottom 5 in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, I think it's a system, a lot of teams run it, and yes, there's some hybrids like kind of the Blues are doing, and then also plenty of teams run the zone for sure. But I think what Jim Montgomery has said in the last week or so, and he said it again today, is that the Blues are a team where you were looking for the effort. Like, why aren't they starting games on time? Where's that effort? Does it look like these guys care? Well, guess what? A man-to-man defense forces you because, you're responsible for your guy. So we saw last game where you got defensemen who are physically engaged with some of these forwards because that's the style that they're playing now with that zone-to-zone or man-to-man. So I think that, what this has forced the Blues to do is play more responsible, be more active, be more assertive, and then it's leading to them playing better defense. So I think that, what he did in Dallas worked. And, you can probably get away with playing both systems, whoever, team that you're coaching. But I think it's a situation with the Blues where we saw specifically that they were just not playing well in that zone. They were not covering up for each other. They were not taking care of their zone properly, and this has forced them into that style of play.
Jeremy Rutherford is our guest here on 101 ESPN. All right, JR, last question that I have for you here. What are you hearing on the Jordan Kyrou front?
Yeah, just what Jim Montgomery said today, that they were pretty thankful that getting that MRI done and that it was what they expected, that this looks like something, minor in terms of the big scope. So we're not talking ACL, MCL, and in terms of any tear, and that they're calling it week to week, but they really felt like it was going to be 8 to 10 days. So, because of the Christmas break, do they hold them out, that long and give them that extra cushion? Perhaps they do, but, listening to Jim Montgomery today, it seems like they dodged something more severe after getting the MRI results.
I know it's pure speculation, JR, but we've heard a lot over the last couple of weeks of the trade chatter for the Blues and Doug Armstrong looking to make a move. Do you believe that to still be true where they stand, or is this just kind of a fluid thing we'll find out before that roster freeze?
Well, I do. I think, that Doug Armstrong, is of the mindset that he always talks about 35,000 feet above and watching and seeing what kind of team he's got, and the players tell him, what kind of team they're going to be. And I think we've gotten a big enough sample size, right? The only problem is the rest of the Western Conference, hasn't played well either. And so the Blues just 2 points out of a wild card spot going into tonight's game, which seems crazy. But you also have to look at it. They're also 5 points out of the cellar, and out of the bottom of the conference. And so, they're right there in the middle. And tonight's a big game. I think that they haven't won 3 in a row. You got 2. If you can come back and beat a Boston team that took it to you last time 5-2 and win 3 in a row, then you got a Nashville team. You got a Chicago team that's playing better this year, but a couple games that could be winnable. And then all of a sudden you got a 4 or 5 game winning streak. So, I don't want to get into the chatter already where, does 3 or 4 or 5 wins change Doug Armstrong's mind? I think he's going to continue to listen to, the phone calls, the trade options that are out there. And, will we see something happen before the freeze? I doubt it, just because of the roster and the way it's in shambles right now with the injuries. But I do think when the team comes back for Christmas, depending on, how things go and are they still playing well, that stuff will start to pick up as we get into the new calendar year.
JR, before we get out of here, can I ask you about Morgan Geekie? What's this guy's deal? 22 goals in 30 games.
What's your deal, man?
He had 35 goals in his career prior to last year. Then put up 33 with the Bruins, and now he's got 22 in 30 games.
JR, what a question to ask in a scrum afterwards. Hey, Morgan, what's your deal, right?
What's your deal? Yeah, and try to write a story explaining what his deal is. Yeah, no, he's been a solid player, and also to garner the Olympic attention that he's getting, can he become an Olympian? I just think it just shows, hard work, put it together, consistency. The one thing, this might be getting a little off base to answer your question, but it's players who trust the process and keep, coming up and every day and putting in the same effort, consistency, doing the same routine, it produces results. I've seen it with so many of these types of players like a Geeky who can come out and continue to put up production like this. So if I had to answer a question, what is his deal? To me, that's his deal is here's a player who's trusting who he is and going out and getting the work done.
I just want to read you the names that are in the top 7 right now in the NHL in goal scoring. Okay,
One of these things is not like the
Nathan
other.
McKinnon, Connor Bedard, Jason Robertson, Kirill Kaprizov, Sidney Crosby, Leon Draisaitl, Morgan Geeky. And it's not in that order. Morgan Geeky is second behind Nathan McKinnon.
All I'm hearing is Morgan
It's
Geeky's the second
ridiculous.
best player in the National Hockey League.
Only 5 of his goals have come on the power play. He has 17 even strength goals this year, man.
Again, what's your deal, man?
He would be, if you just had his even strength goals this year, he has the same number of goals on the season as Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, every year there seems to be an outlier, a guy like that. Not saying that, there is every year, but, guys that just step up and get into that group. And it just shows that, the Blues have a plan to, they're going to draft. They're going to try to, raise one of these players in their system, whether it be a Jimmy Snuggerud or somebody like that, or the other options to go out and sign guys in free agency. But there's always these players, like a Geeky who can help come in and help you and produce. And, kind of what the Blues need, honestly, at this point, somebody to come in and produce like that. Because, it takes a mixture of things to put together a winning team. And the Blues are trying to get there, and they need their guys to produce like Geeky is.
The nerds among us would probably say the 27% shooting percentage is probably a bit unsustainable, but I'm not going to get
Well, then that's his deal. That's his deal.
JR, appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the game tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Got it. That's Jeremy Rutherford joining us as he does each and every Tuesday here on BK and Ferrario.
Just imagine in a scrum after he scores like 2 goals and takes the lead over McKinnon, be like, Morgan, what's your deal, man? Probably gives a great answer, too.
I was about to say, I actually think it could get a pretty good answer.
Or he looks
if
at you.
you asked it in the right situation.
Or he looks at you and goes, was that a question?
Scrum.
Yeah, I think that's more of a pregame, one-on-one.
That's a Joey question.
Morgan, what's your deal?
Yeah, what's going on, man?
What the hell? Just
Yeah, 27% shooting percentage. At some point, that is going to fall back down to
be
earth.
fair, Sidney Crosby's at 28%. Tom Wilson's at 25%. To have this kind of a pace, you've got to be pretty high up there.
Crosby and Tom Wilson's, to me, are explainable because Crosby is elite. Tom Wilson plays the same way that Jake Neighbors plays, to where, guess what? When he's shooting the puck, it's more times than not going in because he's standing on the doorstep. Morgan Geeky's at 23% from shooting at the faceoff dot.
It's really weird. He's 27 years old. This is a former third-round pick. This isn't a guy that had this crazy pedigree. He's been on 3 teams now in his NHL career. With Carolina, he couldn't really crack the lineup. With Seattle, he was in the lineup.
Bottom
he was
6
like
guy.
A 4th liner for the most part.
They let him walk.
That first year in Boston, he finally gets an opportunity, but he's mostly a third-line player, playing about 15 minutes a night. But he's getting an opportunity. He finishes with 17 goals that year. And then last year, boom, it just all comes together. But he's on a bad team, so I was like, okay, somebody's got to score, right? But he had 33 of them. And then there was all the trade talk in the offseason, ends up getting the extension, and now he's got 22 goals in 30 games.
And like last year at 33, the Bruins were bad, and it's like, okay, well, somebody's got to score with Pasternak. Now, I mean, the Bruins are decent, and Morgan Geeky is I think he had a goal streak. It was snapped a couple of games ago, but he had a goal streak of like 5 or 6 straight games.
It's crazy.
What's your deal, man?
Absolutely insane.
What's your deal?
Somebody needs to talk to him.
I'm taking
Somebody
him
should
for
stop
an
him.
anytime goal tonight.
Are you? First time goal. Go for those big odds.
That's first a little risky.
He scored a goal in 7 of the last 9 games.
Oh, yeah. Bet it.
He scored
Do
1 goal and
factor.
had 3 points against the
No,
Blues.
that's not how it works.
Due to go to a cold streak.
That's true.
Pavel Buchnevich, anytime goal scorer.
Coming up in about 15
Really
minutes.
too risky.
T-Bone is a little worried about the Brendan Donovan market potentially getting stuck in the mud. He'll
stop it,
explain
T-Bone.
why coming up here in just a little bit. Junk Drawers next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Classic Air Care, who's the company that has been around since 1926, making people comfortable with their HVAC system. Those older units, maybe you've got newer ones, and typically once you hit this time of the year, it's a really good time to purchase a new system. If you've had an older one and you've been thinking about making the turn for it, you want to do it before it hits that consistent freezing cold weather. And also right now, the tax credits are coming to an end. The customers that purchase new HVAC systems can earn up to $3,200 in tax credits with the purchase of energy-efficient equipment, but that's, again, ending in December, so you want to check that one out as soon as you can. They've got financing options for you, and the really cool part about this thing is you don't need to have somebody to come out to give you an estimate for a new system. You could do it on their website at classicaircare.com. You just click on Instant HVAC System, answer 4 simple questions, and you'll get a price right there in the browser. They've got 100 vans on the road. They'll get back to you within 24 hours to get an appointment scheduled, whether it's one of those maintenance agreement, plus you got incredible customer service over at Classic Air Care. I've been using them since 2016. Scheduled today. Just tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. You could do so at classicaircare.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So I think sometimes these extra games, the like special one-offs, get a bad rap, Alex. The NFL does these a lot. The slime game, they've done that for Thanksgiving over on Nickelodeon.
You were talking about
think.
bowl games again. I was like, is this
No.
bleeper bringing them up in the junk
The
drawer?
Pop-Tarts Bowl should be plated by Notre Dame.
In prime time.
It's a great bowl
ABC.
game.
We'll talk about Notre Dame coming up
No,
at 1:30.
God, why are we going back to it?
No, but last night they did the Monsters, Inc. style game. And I didn't really have high expectations for it going in, Alex. It's not for me, though. It's not for T-Bone. It's not for Alex. These games are being put on in this format for our kids, Alex. And so yesterday we threw it on for a little bit, and I was curious, is Luca going to be interested in this or not? And he didn't seem to be showing a whole lot of interest. We were downstairs. He was playing hockey, kind of going back and forth with TV, whatever.
That's my guy. Bleep football.
And I switched over to the actual game because I was like, hey, man, if you're not going to watch, like, I'll go ahead and put on the actual football game.
He's like,
I
I'm
feel a little ridiculous right
sick of
now.
watching Sully and Mike Wazowski right
Exactly, yeah. Like, I'm more than happy to flip this thing over to the real football players if you don't want to watch the monsters.
BK's got money on the game. He's like, who's Sully? Who's Sully?
I hope that was Brown.
The funny thing is that was my wife last night. Who
Oh,
won
she
another
did?
bet. So the Kylie household doing really well. The Ferrario household
Nice.
not so much.
Oh, sad.
Yeah, I lost more last night. This might surprise nobody.
So anyway, I switch over to the actual game, and my son sprints back over and says, no. Monsters. And then I switched back over. He got excited again and then kind of went in and out. By the end of the night, he really was into it. He thought it was cool. But I thought it was just kind of one of those, like, okay, he watched it for a little bit. It was a way to entertain him. We're going to go to bed. We'll never think about it again. Woke up this morning, Alex, and Luca's a tough one to get out of bed. He gets it from me. I'm not exactly a morning person.
God bless you, because my kids are the opposite.
So most mornings, he's not thrilled with the idea that he's got to get up to get ready
Wakes up like the Exorcist.
daycare. Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Today was different, though. Today, he wakes up, asks his mom to get him out of the crib immediately. Doesn't have any clothes on, not like just, like, we got to get to the living room. Sprints to the couch, sits down on the couch, says, I want to watch the little football players. Talking about the monsters and the little, like, mini characters that they had on the screen. That's why they do it. Mm-hmm. I learned last night firsthand why they put these things on.
Yep.
Because Luca doesn't care all that much about football. He's interested occasionally. He was locked in on this and woke up the next morning, and it was the first thing that he was thinking about, man. So it works. And for any of you out there that hate on it, totally cool, and maybe it's not for you. Yep. It's not for me. It's not for Alex. It's not for T-Bone.
Well, maybe for T-Bone.
For the little ones, and it gets them interested in the game. So I say kudos. Kudos to you, Disney. Kudos to you, ESPN, for putting on a good broadcast last night that appealed to the people that it was supposed to be appealing to.
Yeah, especially like being a Disney entity, like that should be in their bag of tricks almost every single game. You have Disney movie themed football games. I know, so my girls were asleep by the time that started. So, but I know that if I would have, yeah, I mean, believe me, ours don't nap anymore. So by 7 o'clock, it's like, get me in bed. But if I would have turned that on, both of my older girls would have been like, Daddy, this isn't Monsters. They know the movie, the plot, the lines to a T. So I can't turn on Monsters football. They'd be like, this isn't the movie. This is football. Turn on Monsters. So I'm in that stage. I'm designated like this for the football game. Be like, yeah, I see it, baby.
Tough crowd.
My 22-year-old son, according to the text line, watched the whole game in the Monsters format. Good for him.
Hey,
I mean, if there's something you're interested in, they do a great job with it.
They did it a couple years ago for Toy Story. I think it was a game in London.
Do they have the players? I didn't watch it. This not surprise nobody, but like, do they have like the names of the players underneath the characters so you know who they are? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they do a really good job with it. The announcers were into it. Somebody said, does the alternate broadcast actually follow the events of the game? Absolutely, yeah. They have the player tracking stuff now down to a science to where it is literally like the exact same play. Now, it's on a bit of a delay compared to the actual game. So if you're like trying to keep up, you're doing the second screen thing.
You're doing a betting on watching.
Good luck. But if you're just hanging out with the kiddos and you're watching this alternate broadcast, yeah, it's the exact same game, the exact same sequencing, and the players move the same way that they do in the actual game. There's a few bugs where occasionally like two guys will have the football and you're like, wait, what's going on here? But for the most part, they do a really great job.
Have they done this for hockey?
Yeah.
Did they? I was trying to remember.
They did a hockey game where they did this.
That's
and I don't remember the characters that they did it for because I remember seeing it because I was curious how well it would play.
I thought I remembered
It's just like the football one where they did it very well to where it worked.
That would be the one because my girls are much more into hockey than probably any other sport. That'd be the one that I'd be curious to see if they liked it or not.
Looks like they did it with Big City Greens.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what it is, but now that you say that, that's familiar because it was like a Capitals versus
Big City Greens. Is that like a cartoon?
Ovechkin was only chasing his 800th goal.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. It's a Disney's kids show. That's right. People were complaining because it was Ovechkin's 800th goal.
It's an alternate game.
It wasn't his game, but he was chasing it.
Yeah, he was chasing it.
I mean, it's also
Yeah, and
available
they have
in the
other
actual
one.
format. They're not just exclusively streaming it
make you
in
watch this?
animated character form. But yeah,
I have
they
no
apparently
idea
have
what
that
this
too.
Big City Greens is.
The hockey one was for the Winter Classic, so they did have that.
That's what it was.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Somebody on the text line said, can you imagine your 5-leg parlay as it gets wrecked by Boo from Monsters, Inc.?
Tough day.
Could you imagine your kid sitting there and you just start cussing out one of the characters from Damn it, Mike Wazowski, catch the football!
Coming up next, T-Bone's getting worried about Donovan's market getting stuck in the mud. He'll explain why next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here in Missouri. Your moment is finally here because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is now live in your state. Now, you can make every game even more exciting with same-game parlays, money lines, props, and more, all right from your phone, all safe, secure, and easy to use. And right now, new Missouri customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. No waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. So join me tonight. I'm going to be getting in on the Blues. They've been playing better, so I'm going Blues minus 1.5. Because they're going to Joel Hofer, I'm going under 5.5 goals in tonight's matchup. And if you're thinking for the NFL slate, already put some money down on the money line for the Broncos this weekend over the Packers. So download that DraftKings Sportsbook app and use my code TANNER. That's code TANNER as new Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code TANNER. The crown is yours. And partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's 1:10 your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. T-Bone's worried about the Brendan Donovan market getting stuck in the mud. T-Bone, how come?
Well, I thought going into the winter meetings that by the end of this week, because they wrap up tomorrow, or by early next week, there'd been so much traction from what Heisman was doing while he's walking around talking with other executives that I expected Brendan Donovan to be traded. And I still do expect him to get traded. But all of a sudden, Ketel Marte's come out of nowhere. There was the rumors from Bob Nightingale of, hey, Marte, kind of a bad teammate in the locker room. And then it was, hey, maybe the Diamondbacks look to trade him. And Arizona's like, whoa, how could we trade Ketel Marte? We can't get rid of this guy. And now he seems like a hot commodity. It sounds like he is going to move. And if I'm just being honest, if I'm a baseball team looking to upgrade at second base, I'm taking Ketel Marte over Brendan Donovan. He's just a better baseball player. He's a MVP caliber player at times when he's at his best. So the reason that I say I'm a little worried, quote unquote, is I don't know if Heim's actually going to get Donovan done this week. I think he's got to wait till Ketel Marte comes off the board, and then the teams that lose out on Ketel Marte will then pivot and make their best offer to the Cardinals for Brendan Donovan. So it's not so much that I'm worried he doesn't get traded. I think it's going to be a slower process than what I was expecting it was going to be when we went into the winter meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about it at all because I kind of thought it was a pipe dream to get it done at the winter meetings. I thought the conversations were going to excel, and then that carries over post-winter meetings, and then the Cardinals wait for, all of the desperate teams to come in. Because, frankly, you're always waiting for these teams to miss out. Now, I know what you're saying with Ketel Marte coming out of nowhere, because that's the same position who's a better player. He's also got, 6 more years on his contract? But that, to me, actually incentivizes other teams to be more aggressive. If they miss out on Marte, thinking that now we got another option. If we don't want to pay the price to get Donovan, can we get Marte? Those teams miss out. They go right back to the drawing board with the Cardinals. So I always thought this thing was going to take either up until New Year's Eve or maybe a little after New Year's Eve. But the Marte does throw a wrinkle into this whole thing.
I think there were a few pieces that had to find their resolution before the Cardinals could make their move. So Wilson Contreras, let's start with him for a second. I think the first thing that had to happen there clearly was Schwarber landing somewhere. We've now seen that. He's going back to the Philadelphia Phillies. The next market that moves there is Alonso and Wilson Contreras. I think those are kind of one for one. Which side would you rather be on? And since those are the two guys that still remain, maybe you could see some movement on that.
And I'll throw another wrinkle in there. It depends on where Alonso goes, but let's say he goes to Boston, who's reportedly interested. Now, Casas' name emerges into the market of, okay, do we want a younger first baseman and a lefty in Casas or Contreras?
Sure. I don't know that they're necessarily comparable because Casas has a significant injury he's coming off of and has not been nearly the consistent hitter that Contreras has been. But it's a name that's in the market, if nothing else, and so there's at least that concern. The Donny side of things is interesting to me because the following players could be considered to be competing with him in the marketplace right now. Ketel Marte, Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger, Alex Bregman, Bo Bichette. Now, not all of those guys are one-for-one replacements for Donny, but the teams that are interested in Donovan could also be interested in at least one of those players. And that's the thing that's tough with his market. He can play so many different places. So a team may be right now trying to acquire Kyle Tucker. And if they miss on Tucker, their pivot is Donny. A team right now may be trying to acquire Ketel Marte. And if they miss, the pivot is Donny. The same thing could be true for Bichette or Bregman. All of these different guys, the pivot is, all right, if we miss out here, who they deem to be a better player than Brendan Donovan, then we'll go the Donny market. So I'm not worried about the Donny market being lower than expected. I do think it's possible it takes longer than we expected to develop, though. Because instead of him being the place that people start their off seasons with, maybe he's the thing that they end it with. So maybe you're looking more at a January return for Brendan Donovan as opposed to December, which is disappointing, but it doesn't really matter in the end, so long as you get a couple of teams that are still going to be interested in him.
I'd say as long as you still end up with a good return for Donovan, which, again, I still think is a fringe top 100, if not top 100 prospect.
I agree.
Then it doesn't matter what happens. But I thought the Cardinals were going to be an active team at the winter meetings. Maybe we talked about it all week leading up to it. Like, we thought the NL Central as a whole, outside of Milwaukee, was going to be pretty active. And now everything just kind of feels stuck and kind of in a log jam. And again, Marte's really the one that threw the wrench into this, because outside of like the Contreras market, we had kind of already known that. I think at third base, we didn't bring that one up. I think you got to wait to figure out what you're doing with Arenado till we see what happens with Bregman and the Japanese players that are posted that can play at the corners as well. And they have to sign within, I think it's 11 days now. I think it's December 20th is when they have to sign. So again, you had to wait on that one. The one I thought for sure was, okay, Donovan will be the one that is going to be the biggest trade chip at the winter meetings. And then Arizona finally said, you know what, we will listen to Ketel Marte.
As a follow-up on this, who do you guys think is the first player that is dealt by the Cardinals?
Probably.
Like Sonny was the first.
Probably
but who's the
Donovan.
next one to go, I guess would be a better way.
My
to phrase it.
sarcastic self should have answered that. Well, it was Sonny. Great, Brandon. My guess would either be Brendan Donovan or JoJo Romero.
JoJo was going to be my answer.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the reliever market is the one that's the furthest along right now. We've already seen a few different guys that have signed.
Yeah.
And we just saw yesterday, like Steven Matz signed with the Tampa Bay Rays. So you're already getting to that point on the left-handed reliever market specifically. I could see there's been a trade on the left-handed reliever market as well. I could see that being the next one that goes.
I think the last one is Nolan Arenado.
I agree.
I think that's the last resort by a team that missed out on everything before training camp begins and Arenado's traded.
I don't think he's anybody's first choice at third base.
Agreed.
And now that Heim said he's not going to get bought out, now BK has to come to the realization that Arenado might be back.
I never thought he was going to be bought out, though.
You said it cannot happen. He returns.
Get him the hell out of town.
I don't think they will release him. I think there is a scenario, though, where they pay basically all of his salary the way that they did with Dexter Fowler for him to go play elsewhere.
No,
That's different than releasing.
I think he's back at third base.
They're not going to release him. There would be no reason to.
I actually think it's probably Contreras is the last one that gets moved, because I think if they're going to move Arenado, I could see it being late in the offseason. I'm still having a tough time figuring out where Contreras would land. Not because he's not a piece that teams don't want like Arenado, but it's such a limited market. I think Donny's still the first piece to go, because I think JoJo's going to be back. And that's that's not because like I wouldn't trade him. I just don't think you're going to get a lot for him at this point. Like the left-handed relief market typically won't take off till you get to the trade deadline. And I think you're going to get more for him at the deadline, because then teams will be desperate, looking to add swing and miss, looking to add a lefty. Right now, I think you're getting not a lottery ticket prospect, but I think you're looking at like what Devin Williams got, not the Cortez, but they got, I think it was Durbin, the kid from St. Louis that played his ball at Wash U. He was like a fringe prospect, like a 15th ranked prospect in a team system. I think you get a little bit better at the deadline when teams are more urgent to make that kind of a move.
YouTube chat, John Score says, BK, if you trade JoJo, who's going to close?
Who cares?
I think Matt Swanson.
I don't think he's closing now. I think it's O'Brien or Swanson.
I think Swanson's probably your guy that closes next year. I think O'Brien is somebody that helps in setup. I would also, by the way, be open to trading O'Brien.
Jeez, man, you can't trade all of the guys.
You can.
You call, I listen.
Yeah. I think the Cardinals are in a listening situation right now.
Yeah, let's be honest. They're not going to be closing a lot of games.
If they get good offers on especially relievers, yeah, I'll listen. I'll talk about any of these guys because you're in asset accumulation mode. That is where you're at in 2025 and 2026. Maybe that starts to change, but right now it's about getting the best futures possible. And if you have a bad area on your team, the best place to be bad when you're tanking, man, is in the bullpen, because then you can be good everywhere else and you still lose games because your bullpen screws it up. It's frustrating to watch, but it's kind of the best way to go about it because none of those players matter. You can overall a bullpen in an offseason.
And BK brought up the lefty that got traded. I can't remember his name. He went from the Nationals to the Red Sox. He had 4 years of control, and the Nationals got, I think it was a top 100 prospect, if I'm not mistaken, from the Boston Red Sox. Why? Because teams value that control. And that's the other reason I'm skeptical of JoJo being moved this offseason. He's a pending free agent at the end of the year.
The Heisman finalists have been announced. Who would get your vote out of these four? St. Louisan is in the mix. We'll tell you about that coming up in 15 minutes. Better or forget it next year on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. I was just listening to something from MLB Network during the break. I'll throw it your guys' way. Thought Harold Reynolds said something really interesting. Not going to add the...
Oh, is that the Bet It or Forget It? Forget it.
You're not going to add the analysis there, T-Bone?
I think Harold Reynolds is terrible at his job, but okay, go ahead.
That was the forget it part.
He said, why not Mason Miller as the piece that the Padres are dangling out there to make this big trade that they're rumored to be involved with? So Bet It or Forget It.
Would that be bigger than Juan Soto trade that they pulled off? Because that's what Feinstein labeled it as.
They just gave up the #1 prospect for him. Yeah. So I guess maybe?
What are you getting in return for that then?
I truly do not know.
I think it's Tatis to the Cardinals. We all know it.
Bet it or forget it, Mason Miller will be traded by the end of the offseason.
I'm going to say forget it. If they trade Mason Miller, who's pitching for them? I mean he's already on their rotation.
Apparently, he's going to be a reliever for them.
Yeah.
Padres are in a weird spot.
I would trade him.
Maybe that's why you trade him. You go get more starting pitching.
I wouldn't have traded for him. I thought the trade for him was crazy.
Well, it helped them win the World Series.
Right.
I'm going to forget it. I don't think that he's going to move Miller. I don't know what he has
can't
up
be
his
that
sleeve.
dumb, right?
Why don't you think it's a dumb? I kind of agree with BK.
Smart.
I think the premise is smart. Again, if you got a reliever, I'm open to trading him. Would I sign a reliever ever in free agency to a long deal? No. It's such a volatile industry. So
I thought his idea was going to be, we need to start him next year. We're trading for him as a reliever. He's going to help us potentially win the World Series this year, and then next year and beyond, he's going to start for us. They're not going that direction. So now I think, if they're going to have him as a reliever, I would definitely trade him.
And they're dangling Pavetta, as we talked about yesterday. See, I have no idea.
I think they're going to do it.
I mean,
Tatis
it wouldn't shock
the
me
Cardinals.
anymore. I don't think they're moving Tatis because they can't. The one thing they can do is get creative with their pitching staff by making a move with Miller. I mean, they trade Tatis. Their offense was bad last year, and I don't know where you're making those upgrades.
The other one that I would throw out here that I don't think is getting brought up a whole lot is Jackson Merrill, who I think is a really good player, but I think maybe sometimes we overstate how great he's been. He had a very good rookie year. Last season, he took a pretty significant step back, especially offensively. So Jackson Merrill is somebody that I would throw out there.
That was the Mike Schilt effect. That's why that had the step back. Guys, bet it or forget it. The Blues win 5 of their next 8 games.
They're not capable of that. Forget it.
You sure?
Yeah. Oh, I've watched them, I'm sure. I know they play Nashville. I've seen this team play down to their competition a lot.
Chicago's been playing poorly lately.
And the Blues are due for another no-show soon.
You're not wrong.
It's probably denied because I'll be in attendance.
Oh, God. Well, You're not Brandon, though, so not a wild thing happening.
I don't know. He may rub off on me because there is weird crap that happens when he's at games. And I'm there a lot with him.
That's true.
I'm going to bet this one.
Shocker.
Yeah, couldn't have seen that one.
I think you beat Nashville twice. I think you beat Chicago. I think you win tonight. And then I think you get one of Winnipeg, Rangers, Florida, Tampa. And as long as there's not a 3-game losing streak in there somewhere, I'm back in, baby.
T-Bone?
Wild. Bet it or forget it, guys. Chaim Bloom will sign a free agent before he moves Brendan Donovan.
Not believe it. Or not believe it. Forget it.
Wrong game.
Yeah,
totally
I'll
different.
bet it. They signed somebody. I think they might sign a starter. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm forgetting it.
See, I'm kind of leaning bet it because he's at the winter meetings, so he's having conversations.
So that's how this works?
Well, no, but like they've been public that they want to add a starter or 2, and I think he knows he's going to move Donovan. I think he's got a sense that if he's got a sense that he's got a deal out there for Arenado, or he knows that there's at least interest and he will be able to get him off the books, I could see where he signs somebody first before he moves off of pieces.
I think the starters that he would sign, he knows they're going to be there when they get the deal done.
I don't know if that's true, because I would have thought Matz would be available until February, and he signed yesterday.
I think they're going even lower than Matz on the signings.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. I mean, this is around the time of the year, I think even a week earlier, where they signed Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson.
Yeah,
so.
It was the same president of baseball operations in charge, wasn't it?
No, I'm just saying, like, guys like having certainty. Yeah. I think a lot of players would like to have this thing done prior to the start of the new year if possible. So like, if they went to Dustin May today and said, hey, 1 year, $18 million, you in? I think Dustin May would say absolutely. Now, I don't think they're going to offer that to him right now, but Somebody like that, I could see them going out there and acquiring. All right, let's get into these texts. 314-399-9646. Bet it or forget it, Alex. The Blues will be in a wild card spot by Christmas. That comes from the 316.
Well, if they win 5 of the next 8, like I've said, and this Western Conference continues to, then sure, I'll bet this one.
The 316 is the Wichita area code.
Hey.
Wichita, Kansas.
Wichita, Kansas. Wichita. I've heard about that.
Deep cut for those of you that are familiar. It was part of the festival.
You got to listen.
I will forget it. I don't think they'll be in the playoff picture by the whatever it was, Christmas.
I will say the Western Conference is very much keeping them alive.
Say,
Not the Blues. The Blues aren't doing it. The Western Conference is keeping them alive.
Very hard to get into a wild card spot right now in the West.
From the 636, bet it or forget it, the Cowboys will win the NFC East. I'm going to forget it. I do think that the Eagles will still win that division given what their schedule is.
Yeah, I mean, if my survivor pool would have made it one more week, I'd have had an instant win with an Eagles team taking on the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm going to
Thanks a lot, Bucks.
I don't see a path for the Eagles or the Cowboys to win that division.
Eagles got 3 more wins in them.
Bet it or forget it, Dylan Holloway finishes with the most goals on the team this year.
I'd bet that one.
Is he just going to be the last one standing?
Probably. I'd bet that one, though. I think now he's in that window to where his offense is pretty consistent. He's picking up points almost every single night, and I think the offense will continue to come. So I'm going to say believe this.
Yeah.
Only one among
Bet
the
this.
top guys that hasn't had missed significant time, so sure, bet it.
I think that's why he does it. Because otherwise, I would still lean Kyrou. But now that Kyrou's out for who knows how many games, yeah, I would bet it's going to be
Deep
Holloway.
tease for you. Dylan Holloway on our pregame show tonight talking about his offense right now.
314
Tune in tonight.
399 9646. That's the Air
Literally.
Comfort Service text
Literally.
line to get involved in the show. In about 15 minutes, we'll get into the rewind. But next,
You have to double check.
It is 1:30.
Yeah, we're on time.
but coming up next, the Heisman finalists have officially been announced. There's one St. Louisan in the mix. Who would you vote for if you had a vote this season? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they take on the Boston Bruins. Well, pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, followed by Puck Drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling, an Icon Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
All right, we've got our Heisman finalists. I can't even find odds on this anywhere, Alex, because I think the odds are too much in favor of Fernando Mendoza to win it. I don't think he should.
Oh, hot take alert.
Now, I don't think anybody is particularly deserving of the award this year.
Don't say the guy that I think shouldn't win
It's
it.
one of the more underwhelming Heisman races that I can remember. I think Fernando Mendoza's been good. The story of the season is very clearly Indiana doing something I didn't think was possible at that university. Like they're the best team in the country this season, and it's impossible to argue otherwise now that they beat Ohio State head-to-head. So if he wins it, good for him, man. That being said, I would vote for Diego Pavia.
No way.
And allow me to explain part of my rationale here. The numbers for the three players that are really in consideration here, Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sayin, Diego Pavia, are pretty damn similar overall. Now, Jeremiah Love has also been a really freaking good football player this season, and he's been great for Notre Dame. As you know, I'm a Notre Dame hater. I can't vote for him this year.
Why are you a Notre Dame hater, Brandon?
A lot of reasons that we can get into later.
They don't want to have fun.
Do you know how many games Fernando Mendoza has played this year against ranked opponents?
4, isn't it?
I would say yes. It's a low number.
Are we counting like when South Carolina was ranked or no? Oh, 2.
1.
2.
Yeah.
Do you know how many touchdown passes he had in those 2 games
Going
against
0.
ranked opponents?
It's a BK game, 0.
2.
1.
Oh.
In 2 games against ranked opponents, he threw for 430 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Mediocre numbers. Julian Sayin had 3 games against ranked opponents this year. Was better. Still not great. 620 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Diego Pavia this year, 3 games against ranked opponents, 690 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, also ran for 120 and threw for 2 touchdowns. You want to just go with the conference play? All right, cool. Diego Pavia against conference opponents this year ran for 560 yards and 7 touchdowns, also threw for 2,200 yards and 16 touchdowns against only conference foes. He had better numbers against the better competition than Mendoza or Julian Sayin did this season. So those guys racked up a bunch of numbers against some of their lesser opponents this season. I just think that the guy that I would vote for is the one that did the most on the worst team, and that would be Diego Pavia. He had the least to work with. So I would say he was, to me, the best football player that I watched this season, most consistently. I didn't feel that way after watching the Mizzou game, but then he backed that up by having spectacular performances down the stretch. I would vote for Pavia. He's not going to win it. I think it's going to go to Fernando Mendoza. Do you guys think that's the right call this season?
Yeah, I do. And who are the spectacular opponents that Pavia went out and showed out against
this season?
Yeah,
At
the ranked
Texas,
one.
he was very good.
But Texas
He was
isn't
amazing against Texas. They have a great defense.
I know, but like they're not like a juggernaut.
They have a great defense, though. Auburn, we saw how good their defense is. Auburn's defense, they're not a great football team, but that should not take away from what they are defensively. He threw for 380 and 3 touchdowns against them.
And ran for 112.
He was amazing in that game. Tennessee, not a great football team. Pretty good, though. Threw for about 300 in that game. Like, I think we are underselling the performances this season by Diego Pavia. He was very, very good.
Yeah, and I would say he's the second best, but I would give it to Mendoza. I mean, I'm not going to dock the guy for performing who threw more touchdowns and had overall more touchdowns than what Pavia did just because he went up against inferior opponents. I mean, he still went out there and he performed.
He didn't have more total touchdowns, though.
He had 39. He had 30, or he had 6 rushing and then 33 throwing. Pavia had 37. So I mean, like, I'm
Checkmate.
I'm not gonna.
It's showing,
Sometimes you're wrong.
I did mine in the office, okay?
Cap, you win, good son.
And just like him, you are super confident in your answer.
Well, I also did that one like in the fly, but like I'm not going to dock the guy because he went up against inferior opponents. Yeah, he went out there and he dominated against bad teams, which is what great football players do.
Yeah, I would vote for Pavia too. I mean, you look at the passing numbers, and again, I get it. He didn't put up spectacular numbers. I think that Texas game, though, is a better performance against a good team that I think you can look at for Love, Sayan, and Mendoza. And the game you can maybe throw in there for Mendoza is that Oregon game. And it really wasn't until the final drive that we talk about that performance from Mendoza.
Penn State.
They weren't the same team, though.
No, I'm with you, but that's the game that I think a lot of people, they watched that game, what he did there at the end. And
well, they probably watched with a committee who still thought they were a good football team. I would give it to Pavia. And here's the thing that I find fascinating. And look, there are explanations to this. But for Mendoza, we would agree that he was on a better football team this year than he was last year at Cal, right?
Yes.
He threw for fewer yards this year than he did at Cal last year. And again, there are explanations to that, but he also had an extra game to do it here in the Big Ten. Yes, they blew opponents out. I get it. I get why I would add to it.
That I would go with.
When I'm talking about a Heisman candidate, I'm talking about a guy that puts up gaudy numbers. And he didn't do that for me this year. I think it is Pavia because he did it both with his arm for this version of gaudy numbers with this field, which is not good, as we've said.
Yeah.
He did it with his arm, and he did it with his legs.
It speaks, the fact that this is the conversation that we're having speaks to the lack of a true outstanding performance this season. Nobody really stood out above the rest. Even like you look at the running back side of things, and this is not to take away from Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love was awesome this season, and he averaged almost 7 yards per carry. If you look at Jeremiah Love's numbers compared to Ahmad Hardy's, you could even make the case that Ahmad Hardy had every bit as good of a season as Jeremiah Love did this year. There's very little separation between the two. So that's another thing that's just difficult for me, that on the running back side of things, there was nobody that, no pun intended, ran away with the award. On the quarterback side, which is typically where this goes, as we know, there was nobody that put up a performance that's indicative of what we've seen in previous years where, I mean, you look at some of the numbers that these guys have put up, it's just different. Like 2023, look at the numbers that Michael Penix Jr. put up that season. 5,000 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Only to be outdone by Bo Nix, who had 4,500 passing yards, 45 touchdowns, 3 picks.
I guess he didn't throw picks back then.
Compare that to what we're talking about right now with Fernando Mendoza. Again, 4,500, 45, and 3. Fernando Mendoza this year, less than 3,000 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions.
Yeah, this was a bad class. Yeah.
It's just different.
The leader in passing, what did you say the number was for Penix?
Penix had almost 5,000.
Yeah, Sayan, who leads this group in passing, had 3,200.
Yeah. This is not the year you want a quarterback in the draft. If
Caleb
you're an NFL
Williams
team.
had 4,500 passing yards, 42 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions in 2022.
That's ridiculous.
You go back to 2021, Bryce Young, 4,800 yards, 47 touchdowns that season with 7 interceptions on the year. You go back to 2019, Joe Burrow, 5,600 passing yards, 60 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
Jeez.
That's what we have come to know as the Heisman winner. That's the kind of numbers that we've expected. There was nobody that reached that level of stardom this year, so it is harder for me to go with it. So what the voters are probably going to do is just reward the best team. This will be an award that goes to Fernando Mendoza, not because he was truly the best quarterback or the best player that we saw this year, but because there should be something that allows us to remember the 2025 Indiana season, even if it's not them winning the national championship. So this is almost a team award that's going to Fernando Mendoza, just by default. Because what else are we going to do?
Yeah,
nobody else rise to the level where they.
And I find that ridiculous because Indiana's going to get remembered for winning their first big, even if they don't win the playoff. They're going to get remembered for the first ever undefeated season in program history, for their first Big Ten title since I think it was before like the World Wars. Mm-hmm. So they've got that. What am I putting to it, Vandy, that we remember them? I get it, they're not in the playoff, but it's the same thing that BK yells at me about with Mizzou in their 10-2 year where they beat Ohio State's third strings in the Cotton Bowl or whatever it was. That should be still remembered.
Hey, at least those third strings decided to play. Am I right, BK?
That's right.
But it should still be remembered. So how do you do it for Vandy? Because you couldn't get him in the playoff? you give it to the guy that's deserving of the Heisman Trophy.
I agree. I would give it to Pavia, but
Mendoza.
And by the way, Mendoza and Sane had an extra game. I said this when we went into that Big Ten title game. I said, hey, if one of these guys plays well, they probably steal the Heisman. They both were not very good in that game.
I thought Mendoza was pretty good the last half. The first half happened, but I thought he was pretty good the second half.
Mendoza,
and it's worth noting that is an outstanding defense, kind of similar to the defenses that I was just talking about with Diego Pavia and what he was able to produce. It's also why Julian Sayin absolutely should not be ahead of Diego Pavia. Look at what Sayin did in that first game against Texas's defense, and then look at what Pavia did against them. Tell me they're comparable.
Mendoza put up the same numbers that Tua did back in 2019 when he finished 10th in the Heisman.
Yeah. Oh, yuck.
Yeah. That's more similar to what this season is. It's guys that finish like on the outside looking in to be invited, much less to win.
Trevor Lawrence had better numbers.
Yeah, it's a bad year.
God, don't draft a quarterback.
Heisman's. Coming up next, let's get into the rewind here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with we'll talk about my friends at DraftKings Missouri. Your moment is finally here because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is now live in your state. Now, you can make every game even more exciting with same-game parlays, money lines, props, and more, all right from your phone, all safe, secure, and easy to use. And right now, new Missouri customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. No waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. I'll be in on the action tonight, feeling the Blues extending the winning streak to 3, going Blues -1.5. They got their best goalie in between the pipes, so I'm going under 5.5 as well. So join me and download that DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code TANNER, that's code TANNER, as new Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code TANNER. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
You can also find the podcast wherever it is that you use your podcast, whether that's the Apple Podcast app or the Spotify app, whatever it is. You can find it there. Hell, you can use Alexa. Just tell them to say, hey, Alexa, play BK and Ferrario.
Oh, well, I don't have Alexa.
If you've got that, you can do it over on there as well. Be sure to subscribe, rate, review. All of that helps us share our podcast to the most people possible. All right, Alex, to finish out the show today, we get back to the St. Louis Blues, who are back in action this evening. You've got pregame coverage starting tonight at 6 o'clock right here on 101 ESPN. They are in action against the Boston Bruins. It'll be Joel Hofer in net. What are you expecting in this one? I know you're back in on the Blues after they've won 2 in a row.
I didn't say I'm back in. I said if they win 5 of their next 8, I'll be back in. That's a pretty high bar to clear.
I think they will. So
I did say I think they will. So we'll have to wait and find out. To be honest with you, there's not a whole lot that you're watching for other than seeing if they can carry over what they've done for 2 games to the next one. Can you have a game to where you do not rely on your goaltender to steal it for you? Because JR talked about it. Your defense has somewhat improved this man-to-man. Your goaltending's been awesome. They're going with the right decision and putting Joel Hofer in between the pipes. And you're going to have to scrounge to find goals because you just don't have elite goal scorers beyond your top 2 lines. So can you make this game less about the goaltender and more about your forwards and your overall 5-on-5 play?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they handle the physicality of Boston. BK had brought this up last time they played last week, and Boston was just a much more physical team, and they were like a battering ram. How do the Blues handle that now? And especially because you're down a bunch of regulars as well. Kyra's not in the lineup now again tonight. So how do the Blues handle this? That's one thing that I'll be interested to see tonight.
I'm curious to see how they slow down the man, the myth, the legend that is Morgan Geekie.
Yeah, what's with this guy?
Just an unreal season. He has 22 goals so far this year.
Look, man, if you want to tell St. Louis that you're just a Boston Bruins fan now, you can let them know that.
I'm not. I might be a Morgan Geekie fan, though. Well, it's amazing what he's accomplished.
You missed out on that, man. You could have signed him a couple of years ago.
22 goals, 32 points so far this year. David Pastrnak is an excellent hockey player. He has 11 goals. He has half of the goals that Morgan Geekie has so far this year, and that's a good pace. That's on pace for like 40.
He's also
over the course
hurt,
of the
I think.
full season. Correct. But yeah, that's part of it. The other thing is just, is this sustainable? What the Blues are doing offensively, they looked pretty good on Sunday. Can they keep that up without Jordan Kyrou in the lineup right now? That, in all seriousness, that is the number one thing that I am curious about, is what does that look like for them?
Do you want me to add on to that?
Thought maybe we'd continue, but if you don't have anything more to add, we can continue along with our Cardinals
conversation. It was such a good point.
conversation.
We had nothing to add.
Yeah, this is it. You kind of stuck the landing.
Sometimes I leave the two of you speechless. Big baseball
Wish
news
you wouldn't have
today.
said that.
Kyle Schwarber signing with the Philadelphia Phillies, just as we all kind of expected. Nobody really thought he was going to be leaving. 5 years, $150 million.
Weren't in on the Pirates?
Huh?
Weren't in on the Pirates getting him?
I was more in on the Reds than the Pirates.
Ken Rosenthal said he thinks that it might have been purely performative. Really, you say?
The Pirates saw that the Reds gave him an offer like, oh, we'll give you that offer too. And then when he called back and said, the Phillies are going to 5, you want to go to 5? No.
We didn't really want to go to 4.
Yeah, we didn't want to do this. We just figured you'd take Reds over us.
What do you think it means for the Cardinals? Does this change at all your belief on when or if the Cardinals will be able to trade, for example, Brendan Donovan or Wilson Contreras?
I don't think it has any impact on Brendan Donovan. I think T-Bone brought it up earlier. Ketel Marte has more of an impact. The Contreras one I find interesting because I don't think the Pirates are going to be chasing after Contreras, but, the Reds miss out on that. And I don't think division trades happen very often, but do they look at that? I think once you see more of those first baseman / DH options come off the boards with Pete Alonso in front of Contreras, I do wonder if that leaves somebody wanting more and calls up the Cardinals to pony up what they're asking.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't impact the Donny market. We'll see on Contreras. Now you've got one power bat that's off the market, so now teams start to pivot towards Pete Alonso. And then it just comes down to teams, are they going to wait on Alonso to sign before they pivot to Contreras, or will they try Contreras first because they don't want to give Alonso the years?
Ken Rosenthal on Foul Territory just a little bit ago, quote, Brendan Donovan is very popular with a number of teams because he can do everything. I think Brendan Donovan very much is still
all these
in
reports
demand.
Just saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah, that's
Ken's been
what
saying
this
that
week is
since
all
Winter
about.
meetings is just like, hey, we're going to tell you what we told you already.
They've got to fill the content. There's a void, and when there's no transactions taking place, you just got to keep
Like
talking
the college
about
football playoff ranking show, you know? It doesn't matter.
100%. You're absolutely
You got nothing more to add to that?
I do have one other thing. Fantastic sweater, sir. The YouTube chat mentioned we've got to say it on the air for
Rocky,
people that did not see it on the YouTube screen today.
I have sweatpants that match it. I don't want to be that guy. So I figured I'd just wear it as the
If
sweater.
you're going to the gym after this, you should be that guy.
You going over there too?
Yeah, you don't. Oh.
I'll see you there, Alex.
Oh, that's
For Alex,
No, you're gonna
Ferrario,
run today,
Tanner
aren't you?
Hendrickson, I'm Brandon
Be
Kiley.
gone.
We will talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.